ProWrestlingTees.com/616entertainment is the home of all official 616 Entertainment merchandise. Pick up a shirt. You'll be glad you did. This video is also brought to you in part by the Patreon producers, without whom content like this would not be possible.
Oh, we're back at it.
That's that boy Captain McKay.
Making my my third and final appearance in this trilogy of movie review things we've been doing.
I like how it's automatically got to be the cap on it.
We booked 3, so this is our Return of the Jedi. Let's see if we can divide fans.
For the Dan-Dans who are watching this on Mortal Kombat Monday, here on youtube.com/616entertainment, they're like, what are you talking about? This is a trilogy. So we should let them know that you and I have gotten together to do review podcasts on the Snyder Cut of Justice League and Godzilla vs. Kong prior to this one, but those are exclusive over on Patreon. You know what I'm saying?
Well worth the listens, in my opinion. It was fun talking about those movies, and I anticipate we'll have fun talking about this one too. Nice to be back on Mortal Kombat Monday, though. It's been almost a year, I want to say.
I think it has been about a year, because you were on Season 1, where we talked about your Mortal Kombat stop-motion animation, which was centered around Scorpion versus Subzero, that I believe the Dan-Dans can watch right now on youtube.com/CaptainMcKayRandom.
Oh, I'll double check, but that sounds like accurate information. They can get right on there and watch if they want. I mean, I'd wait until the end of this podcast first and then go watch it. But, or you can come back to it, whatever you want to do, Dan-Dans.
I don't think it's that hard to hit that plus button. You pull up another tab. You click subscribe on youtube.com/CaptainMcKayRandom. And if they don't, you got to lose my number and you got to unsubscribe from this channel right now. That's the only option.
Well, hopefully you don't lose any subscriptions by people going over my channel and be like, this guy sucks.
Oh my goodness. But Dan-Dans, as you know from the title, this is the full review podcast and discussion on the 2021 Mortal Kombat film. And we're going full spoilers, so you know up front. You have had time to watch it, and now you've officially been warned. So when we talk about who dies and what happens and all the big spots, you knew about it. I don't want to hear any complaints.
I think the trailer did enough spoiling as it is, so it's kind of like in that Godzilla vs. Kong territory where if you watch the trailers, you're going to be pretty much 100% in the know of everything that happens in this movie.
You're definitely right about that. And I saw the reveal trailer for this movie, and I was like, they showed way too much, so I'm not going to watch it again. I'm just going to hope I forget about some of the things that I saw. But then just going to YouTube, just the front page of YouTube, in my recommended, I would get sneak peek, Liu Kang versus Cabal. And I'm like, I didn't know he was in it. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
So, but that's the current climate of trailers here in 2021.
They're like, we got to do whatever we can to get these people watching this movie. Just show them everything. Show them the whole movie on the trailer.
I love that that's basically what trailers are these days, is the whole movie in 3 minutes, and if you like the 3-minute version, you can pay for the 2-hour version. But now, with this whole YouTube culture we have, there's a 5-second trailer before the 3-minute trailer. Have you noticed this?
Yeah, it gives you that, it knows that you can't skip for 5 seconds, so it gives you those 5 seconds of, just real quick fire, little scenes and shots and different things, and then it's just Mortal Kombat first trailer right now. And, it's up to you. Do you want to press skip, or do you want to watch the trailer when he says, starting now? And, well, you already basically showed me everything, because, I'm just going to get that, except longer now.
That's the hook these days. Did you like that 5 seconds? Then I think you'll really like this 3 minutes. Hey, did you like that 3 minutes? You're going to love the 2 hours.
And next we'll get the 4-hour Snyder cut of this movie.
Oh my god. So, with handling this, do we want to open with overall opinions and then talk about the characters and then hit the scene by scene deal? How do you want to tackle this?
That sounds good, because that's pretty much how we approached the last couple podcasts we've done. Kind of went in and given our kind of immediate thoughts. I don't know about you, but I watched this just last night, and I think you said you watched it 2 nights ago and then once again? right?
Yeah, I watched it day one, and then I actually just finished it about 20 minutes ago. So I watched it again.
Okay.
So it's super fresh in my mind, and although I took 3 pages of notes the first time, I actually took some more the second time.
Okay, good. I've got like a little my notes that I was keeping on my like text messages here from that I'm saving for myself, so I'll have to pull those up here. But yeah, it's actually, I got some bullet points here. But I'm down to do it that way. You can start with what did you think of this movie?
All right. I actually still don't know what you thought of it. I have seen a couple like review scores. I saw Metacritic, and I actually didn't check any of that until after the first time I watched it. I didn't want to be influenced by anyone else's opinion. And my take on it is actually twofold. I'm gonna hit you with a little surprise here. I watched it the first time on day one, and when I was halfway through, I texted you, and I said, I don't know if you want my opinion beforehand, and you said, go ahead and hit me, and I was like, this sucks. Like, this, it's not good, and yada, yada, yada. We'll go deeper into that. But I just watched it again, and I have to tell you, after the initial disappointment wore off, watching it again and still being bothered by certain things, I think I have settled into this could easily be a fun, guilty pleasure movie going forward. Like, after the first time I watched it, I was like, this sucks. I can't believe they fucked it up like this. Watching it again, I'm like, whatever.
That's fair. Okay. See, like, going into it, I had heard from you and like from one or two other people that like this isn't it. Like whatever they're trying to do is not working. But then, like going in with that, kind of like feedback from people whose opinions I trust, I was like, all right, I'm going in super low expectations, and then I was like, you know what? Not bad. Like, I mean, it's not great, but it's not the travesty dumpster fire that I was expecting, like, based on what I heard.
Yes.
And in fact, like, I kind of went out of it, like, at the end of the movie, I watched this with Mountain Men, and we're both talking about it afterwards. It was just like, I don't know what some of these guys might have been looking for, but, like, I was pretty good with it.
I feel like that's kind of where I am now, and we'll get into what I said about like after the initial disappointment wore off. I'm gonna go into what really like left me flat and kind of bothered me. But the second time I watched it, I did have a like, you know what, I don't know if I expected too much. There are still things that they fucked up, and I'm gonna rip them to shreds
for sure.
But after the second viewing, I'm like, hey, you know what? Give me a sequel.
Yeah, basically. I mean, they did a little, we'll get to all that, but it seems like they fully intend on making that sequel, whether it happens or not, but they definitely left it open-ended enough.
I agree. And with that said, if maybe that's all the Dan-Dans wanted to hear and they've checked out, but now it's time to go into the movie as it went, and we're going to talk about basically the whole fucking thing. That's why, to give a little heads up, that's why this isn't a written, scripted, chopped up, edited review. I'd rather just talk about it long form. I think that's more fun, and then down the line I'll dissect it like that. But this is the way I want to do it. You know what I mean?
It's good. I mean, it works. It's worked the last couple times we did it, as you mentioned, with the other two movies we talked about, and this one I was looking forward to probably more than those because I knew your reaction to it at first, like prior to, your second viewing. And I was thinking like, oh God, this is going to be the first one where we don't pretty much go in with similar ideas of this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, it sounds like you've kind of softened your stance on it a little bit. So I'm definitely prepared to talk about some bullshit that this movie threw on the screen for no fucking reason. But, like we'll definitely get to that.
What's good though is that we didn't start with bullshit, and that's why I think my opinion got lower and lower as time went on with the movie, because I think this opening scene, which was centuries ago with Hanzo Hisashi, who will become Scorpion, and Bihan, who will become Subzero, is fucking cool.
Yeah, that was really well done. Like, I like how they plant the little, like, Easter eggs that are going to come into like Mortal Kombat lore, basically. So you got her outside with the kunai and the rope and everything, just doing gardening work, and that is, of course, what Scorpion ends up using for his entire MK career. So they're like, okay, this is why it's here. He just grabbed it out of the garden and started killing people with it. I like it.
Yeah, it's definitely different from the 95 movie where it's a living being thing that lives inside of him somehow.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't get that. That would have been, a hard sell even in this Mortal Kombat universe where they don't seem like they're not really shying away from like supernatural stuff as we see in this first scene where it's like 1700 and both of these characters, spoiler alert, they turn up in like 2021 in like the main part of the movie. So
yeah, we see Hanzo and his family, and they're just like tending to their home or whatever. And then Hanzo goes to get some buckets of water. We hear some slashing going on, and his family gets killed. He discovers their frozen dead bodies, and then tell me about this fight he has with these Lin Kuei soldiers.
Well, I mean, two things about this opening scene right away is like, first of all, he should have brought the bucket of water with him because he would have had Sub-Zero dead right there.
Like, oh, shit.
As we know from 95.
You're right. I didn't even think about that.
But, yeah, no, he left it behind foolishly, and that's why, he ended up dying there. But
that's why.
Yeah, that's why. But also, like, I'm starting to realize now from this and from, like, just different versions of the MK story that we've seen kind of over the years, like, Hanzo, Scorpion, like, losing his family is starting to become, like, the Bruce Wayne's parents dying of the MK universe where they got to show it and everything.
100%.
And I'm like, I feel like I just saw this. And I did, because this is basically beat for beat the same scene from the cartoon from last year.
Yep, Scorpion
Was it
Revenge.
MK Legends, was it?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah. Very similar to that. Scorpion comes back to his... I'm just calling him Scorpion because,
Yeah.
we know he's Hanzo. But he gets back home, sees his wife and son, like, frozen in the front yard, and he gets, like, ambushed by these ninjas who he makes very short work of, which is an awesome scene. He's, like, already, like, throwing the spear thing around like he's, like, well-trained with it. What we saw actually prior is that there was a baby, like, another, Scorpion baby, hidden in the house, like when they first realized they were kind of being invaded.
Yeah.
They put baby like under the floorboard so that nobody would find the baby, which pays off in the long run with this movie. And
Does
we'll get to
it,
that
though?
whole lineage thing. But so Scorpion ends up killing those ninjas. Awesome fight. And then he ends up fighting with Sub-Zero, who basically is speaking two different languages at him, and Scorpion's like, I can't understand you, but I have to kill you. Which is interesting. I was like, is Scorpion picking up on what he's saying when he's speaking the Chinese, or is he only understanding the Japanese parts? And turns out that's what it is. But they have their fight. Pretty good stuff, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I liked how when Sub-Zero Bihan shows up and he's talking to Scorpion's family, like, where is Hanzo? And he's, like, speaking Chinese, and then he switches over to Japanese. And I feel like that was a little built-in just reference to that these are, like, ancient clans of ninja that have been going at this forever. One's Chinese, one's Japanese. So they're pitted against each other. And also shows that Bihan is pretty fucking worldly, that he speaks both of these languages very fluently. I loved Scorpion fighting the Lin Kuei clan, and dude, when he sticks that sword in the top of the guy's head and blood just shoots everywhere, I'm sitting on my couch and I was like, yes! It was so good. And then
that whole scene, yeah.
He's ripping the dudes apart, and then that's when he picks up the spear and he ties the rope to it. Again, audibly, I'm sitting there alone, unless you count Patches Lugosi, and I'm like, yeah, dude! Like, this is exactly what I wanted. And it doesn't stay that way as time goes on, but this was what I wanted from this movie. I was a little perplexed because Scorpion and Sub-Zero go back and forth and they're getting shit in and they're fucking each other up. But the kill shot seems pretty clear to me that Sub-Zero sticks the spear in, like, Scorpion's collarbone. And I was like, oh, that's not going to kill him. It was a shoulder stab. But it killed him.
I was like, I mean, I don't know if it was that or if it was like his like gaping chest wound that
Could be that
he
too.
got earlier.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he got fucked up in that fight. there was a lot of stabbing going on there between these two guys, and like Scorpion, like you hear the baby crying in the house after some time has passed, and Scorpion is like spitting up blood, crawling towards the house,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually bleeds out and dies, and then gets what we assume transported to the Nether Realm because he kind of like burns up, and like just the imprint of him like on the ground is there, but it's like all, you know, just charred grass and everything. So Scorpion exits the scene there, and we get the appearance of Raiden.
Big boy Raiden shows up.
He goes in the house, finds the baby, and then just teleports away with the baby. Which it's convenient that Raiden's teleportation doesn't like incinerate the baby right away, which is nice. Glad lightning doesn't hurt the baby.
That's a tough little scorpling.
Yep, basically, exactly.
On the subject of Raiden, his eyes look like shit.
That's exactly what we were saying last night, and everybody I was talking to some friends about it today said the same thing. Like, you can do that whited out eyes in a video game,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know, in a movie it just doesn't look like the way they chose to do it doesn't look right. I don't know what it is. Something about it just didn't quite connect with me.
It kind of made me think of like in The Dark Knight. You know, we've seen Batman movies before, and it's always just like the regular human eye, and he puts the black makeup around it so it kind of blends in. Mm-hmm. And if you're a kid like we are who grew up with Batman the Animated Series, we're used to Batman having those whited out eyes. And then in The Dark Knight, Lucius Fox makes him that thing so he can like see through walls and he can hear all this shit. It's this weird technology. And I feel like that was Christopher Nolan giving us the white eyes because he had like the lenses over the cowl and the eyes were whited out. And in The Dark Knight, it to me it did not translate. I was like, oh, that's what this looks like in live action. That's why they don't do it.
Yeah, stylistically, there's not much you could really do there. Like, it's cool on paper, but like when you actually try and bring it into a 3D, like any kind of presentation, like a movie or anything like that, it's just definitely going to lose something in the translation. By the way, that won't be the last time I bring up The Dark Knight in this podcast.
Good, because I don't know what you're referencing, but we've got an extra hook. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah, it's coming.
So we get the plot of this movie, literally white text on a black screen. And it says, like, Mortal Kombat is a fucking ancient tournament, and the Outworld Savages have won 9 straight, and if they win 10, they're going to take over Earthrealm. And this is where the movie really started to go down for me, because we're getting this text on screen where if you compare it to the 95 original, this was a whole promo cut by Raiden on Shang Tsung's fucking boat, which was taking them to Outworld. And Sonya Blade had that line that was like, a handful of strangers on a leaky boat are going to save the world. And there's so much camp, and there's so much heart there, and this one's just like, fuck it, tell the story real fast and let's get going.
Just type it.
Dude.
We don't care.
That was a letdown.
Yeah, I mean, coming off of that awesome scene right away with, like, exposition on screen, it's like they can't even be bothered to have a scene where somebody says this. Like, all right, fine, guys. I will say, like, that, you know, coming from that first scene, it kind of reminded me of, like, one of those little web episodes they were doing a while back. What was that?
Legacy.
MK. Legacy, yeah, there you go. It was, like, a well-done version of that, and I was like, all right, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I don't know, like, throughout the whole movie, like, the tone of, like, that kind of, like, almost fan film style, it never really quite broke free from that, unfortunately. So, like, this didn't feel, like, super big to me, like the 95 movie still kind of does in a lot of ways.
You just nailed something that I agree with 100%. And when I was first taking notes for this, when I watched it the first time, I think I wrote down, this feels like fan fiction, like 5 times.
Yeah, especially, like, certain elements of it, like, we'll get to later. But, like, that first thing, like, I got the major, like, MK Legacy vibes from it, which, again, I think that show is pretty good. Like, for what they were trying to do, they weren't trying to stick directly to the source material or anything. They were doing their own thing. But yeah, it was still, you know, it was well done, and it was an interesting experience to watch it and see something a little different. And then seeing it again, I was like, okay, if that's the direction they're going with this, that'll be cool. But then they just stop going that direction altogether, and they're like, fuck it, here's Cole Young.
Yeah, tell me about Cole Young at an independent MMA show here. You set the scene for us.
Well, let's see. He's getting his he's basically about to go have a fight, and he's like, we find out later this is his daughter with him, basically, who's his like coach, and he's taking really low paying fights to try and support his family, and you know, basically every action movie protagonist from like the past 10 years, he's just a guy trying to make his way and, you know, provide for his loved ones and everything. And we see him like getting his fists wrapped in like yellow, and he's wearing the black hoodie and everything. It's like, oh okay, they're doing this, are they? I get it. And so anyway, yeah, he takes the fight, loses the fight because he doesn't listen to his daughter saying like to spam the uppercut.
Dude, that made me so mad. Just as an MMA fan, I'm obsessed with MMA. I watch it constantly, and just like the guy's got underhooks on him. He's getting pushed against the cage, and his daughter, who's his corner man, which fuck you, his daughter shouts, "Use your uppercut," and it's like, God damn it! Oh, it's just so dumb. It's super MMA nerdy, but like when a guy has you clinched, you can't do anything, let alone throw an uppercut at him. And use your uppercut. What, is he this fucking guy who he wins every fight with an up? Is it his finishing move? Is he a wrestler or is he a fighter? Finish. Like, oh, that drove me nuts. She's this little fucking genius. Oh, well, if you had used the uppercut.
I mean, yeah, in this movie's reality though, she might have that Mortal Kombat logo mark too that like he has, so maybe she does know. She's like, look, you should have uppercutted him.
You know what?
We do find out in this scene about the birthmark, the MK logo that's like been on him since birth, and it turns out we find this out because Jax walks into the MMA like bout there and just watches this guy lose the fight, but he's he still goes backstage and hangs out with him a minute and asks him about the birthmark, and you know, we get that established right there. It's like, oh, he's born with it. He's always had it.
And it was that scene where he's like, oh, I like that dragon logo. That's unique. Where'd you get that from? And she's like, it's a birthmark. He was born with it. Show him. In that moment, I was like, and I don't want to be mean. I don't like to be super negative, but the girl playing the daughter sucks. Like, dude, she's not a good actress, and she's not the only one in this movie that's not good. And we're going to get there, but I do like Makad Brooks as Jax, because he not only does he look the part, but he's got a great voice. This motherfucker could be doing voiceovers for video games. His voice is so good. Mm-hmm. And I'm used to him from Supergirl, where he played James Olsen, which he was also really good on. But the fucking... Where am I going? I'm getting confused. Let me look at my notes here.
Your point about Jax, like, me and Moutman had just come freshly off of watching Annihilation, where Jax steals every scene he's in. He's amazing to watch for possibly the wrong reasons in that. But yeah, seeing Jax still retain charisma and still be fun to watch, I was happy with that.
There was a little Easter egg here where Jax says to Cole, he's like, Cole Young, the man who took the belt off Eddie Tobias, which if you're an MMA hardcore, you know what they're doing there. John Tobias, co-creator of the games, but in between...
Well, and Ed Boon, too.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even pick up on the Eddie. Fuck. Yeah. Really good. All right.
Got them both in there.
Man, I'm stupid, huh? But I do want to point out that Cole Young loses to an independent MMA fighter. He's going to win some fights against some other guys later, but he can't manage to beat another independent MMA fighter. And he's losing on this low circuit, which means he also probably lost a lot in the big leagues, so now he's back down here. But anyway, in between him losing and Jax approaching him in the locker room is the first time that we cut to Outworld. And there's no setup for it. At no point in this movie do they tell you like what Outworld is, other than the text saying like, oh, it's a realm of savages. So we cut to Outworld on this fucking hill, and like Sub-Zero and Shang Tsung are talking, and I gotta say, I'm not gonna compare this guy to Kerry Hiroyuki Tagawa from the '95 movie because that's not fair. Because Tagawa is the fucking man, but even without comparison, this Shang Tsung sucks.
Yeah, I will compare him. He's a waste in this movie.
Dude.
Shang Tsung, and this is our Dark Knight Easter egg here. This is the guy who was Mr. Lau in Dark Knight, who gets extradited, and he's good with calculations, he keeps saying. The guy that Batman goes to Hong Kong to go capture him.
Oh, fuck, I didn't know that was him.
That's him, and you know what? He does more in Dark Knight than he does in this movie. Shang Tsung, he does a lot of sitting down, and there was... When Shang Tsung actually does take a little more of an active role in this movie, a little more, I don't know, maybe I am just too hung up on the comparison, but I was like, was Kerry Tagawa just too busy? Because it's not like they had him doing awesome martial arts or anything like that. Like, Kerry could have just walked around and chewed the scenery and been every bit as lovely as Shang Tsung as he was the first time around, and in MK11. Like, I don't know. I wasn't into this guy.
It's not even just his performance. I mean, he's being directed, so it is what it is, but, he didn't have a cool villain voice. He's just kind of like, go to Earthrealm and kill the champions. So that kind of left me flat, but also, his costume and his wig look fucking cheap.
He looks like, I don't know, I want to say, Mandarin on the Iron Man cartoon from the 90s. Yeah. Just, way over the top. I don't know.
It threw me for a loop because he says to Sub-Zero, he's like, go now and kill Earthrealm's champions. And what I don't understand is he says another line there will be no tournament because there will be no opposition. So there are people who have complained that there's no tournament in this movie. He kind of says it right there that he's purposely avoiding one, but here's my question. In Mortal Kombat 3, the game, or Annihilation, the second movie, Shao Kahn and his goons show up to Earthrealm because they lost. And they're like, fuck it! We're breaking the rules. We're still gonna get you. In this movie, Outworld is 9-0. They only need one more. So what the fuck are they doing?
Why are they trying to avoid the tournament that they're probably gonna win?
They've been dominating for centuries. There's no reason why they should think, oh, it's going to go wrong now. They talk about the prophecy, but it feels like there's no motivation for them to try to avoid the tournament. And, Raiden later says, oh, the Elder Gods aren't allowed to dabble and interfere. But at the same time, no one's stopping Shang Tsung from doing this?
I don't get that. I know he would send Sub-Zero to Earth to, just kill... anybody who could participate in the tournament, and then they're basically going to just win by default, I guess, because they're going to run unopposed. But, I don't know. That didn't make a ton of sense to me. But at that point, too, we did see that he doesn't want to be called Bihan anymore. He's Sub-Zero now. Yeah. But we get no explanation for why he's still alive hundreds of years later. I think it's just, he's just, I don't know, he's in with Shang Tsung's soul magic or something, maybe. I don't know. We don't get much for it.
It's super telling to me that in the storytelling department, even Annihilation was stronger with this, attempted hostile takeover because they lost, so they're desperate. Where in this movie, it's just, here's what we're gonna do, because... It's
at this point in Annihilation, we've been to 30 different locations and had a bunch of different fights. We've heard, annihilate them! We've heard all the lines. Yeah, Annihilation was just, it moves at such a blinding speed.
Dude, we said this was the trilogy that's going to wrap these, but I think you and I need to do podcasts on the first two Mortal Kombat movies as well.
As an aside, we wanted to watch that one last night too, but it's not streaming on anything.
Oh.
I don't have that as a physical copy of anything. So
Son of a bitch.
I do have. I have Annihilation that gets pulled out once a year. So we just went with that.
So we go from Outworld. Shang Tsung is go kill Earthrealm's champions, and then we cut to Sub-Zero attacking a hot dog stand.
Yep.
Tell me about this.
So this is Cole and his family, right? They're at the they're just basically out after this MMA bout. We see Jax kind of like keeping an eye on him from a distance, which comes in handy. But yeah, like he's just in there with his wife, and he's got his little girl outside eating, just like at the table. Suddenly it starts snowing, and they're all like, "Wow, this is weird. It's snowing. What's going on here? Snow." Well, it turns out it's Sub-Zero walking around, just creating winter weather in the middle of the like nice springtime, summertime town.
Yeah, the wife is like, "But it's July."
Yeah, okay. I knew there was some line like that. But yeah, so over comes Sub-Zero, and he's starting to create some chaos. Jax pulls Cole and his family into the car, and he's just like explaining at that point that Sub-Zero is there to kill them because they have the same like MK Dragon logo mark on them. Now, this is the kind of the first time where Cole is like, well, what does this all mean? Like, why do I like why is this getting me into so much trouble?
There's a couple things here that drive me nuts, but I'm going to start with a positive because I don't want to be negative throughout. Mm-hmm. Sub-Zero walking down the streets of like a south suburb of Chicago is an image that I didn't need, and in that moment I was like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like you mentioned earlier, Annihilation, 20 minutes into Annihilation, we had seen a bunch of cool places and settings, even in the original. We saw the fucking boat, we saw Shang Tsung killing Chan on that like ancient temple. We saw all this cool shit.
Yeah, like Liu Kang's White Lotus like area. You had like Johnny Cage on the movie set. Like a lot of stuff.
Dude, and even there's just cool shit where like Liu Kang wakes up from the dream of his brother getting killed, which actually did happen, so it was kind of like a premonition. But he's laying in his room, and for whatever reason, it's totally green in there.
Yep.
Which is a strange artistic choice, but it looked cool. Now Sub-Zero is just walking down the street by a hot dog stand. And here's the positive. I said I wasn't going to do a negative, and then I just shit on it for like 30 seconds. But here's the positive. He makes it snow, which gives the cool visual. And here's what I like. He then raised all the snow off the ground, turned it into spikes, and then shot them back down. And I was like, that was fucking cool.
Yeah, really cool move.
Super cool move. So he's going after them, and like you said, Jax has the Cole Young family in the car, and he's setting the table because someone has to tell some story around here. Mm-hmm. This drives me nuts. Cole Young goes, "You got the wrong person, all right? I'm not the fighter I used to be." And for us, we don't know who you used to be. We
heard you beat somebody for the belt once.
Yeah, we didn't have a montage of you like, oh, I used to be on top of the world. I'm a 2-time champion. Defended the belt 7 times. But then things got a little hard for me. We don't know who you are. So
there could have been like a montage like that. I don't know if you've ever seen was it Eastbound and Down?
I love series. Eastbound, dude.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that like the intro, the opening episode is just like Kenny Powers just being on top of his game.
Yep.
And then just slowly starting to suck more and more. And like you get like 2 minutes of that, and that's all you need. By the end of that, it's like, he fucking sucks.
And Jax in this moment is like, it's not a birthmark, Cole. You've been chosen. As long as they have that, they're going to try and kill you. And I'm thinking, first of all, how does Jax know this? Second of all, the audience who are not Mortal Kombat fans at this point have to be going, what the fuck is going on?
They're like, we just got to trust this guy, I guess, because he's the only one that's told us anything in this movie so far. And like, as for how Jax knows it, I mean, when we do see him and Sonya, like, well, when we meet Sonya,
yeah,
we assume Jax knows what Sonya's up to, and he's been in and out of there with her. But like, you do see that they've been kind of studying up on this birthmark thing, so there's at least a little reason why he might at least have an idea of what's going on.
Oh, I've got notes to say about that.
Oh, good. Okay, me too.
So we're on our way there. We have to get through Jax versus Sub-Zero first. So Jax tells Cole, take the truck, go meet Sonya in Gary, Indiana. Now, for the local Dandans who live right outside Chicago like I do, you know, Gary, Indiana is scarier than Sub-Zero. That is not a good place to be. But tell me about this Jackson Sub-Zero showdown.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think. Okay, so Jax basically takes a gun out of the back, tells Cole, what you just said, go to Indiana, find Sonya. Jax then, he sees Sub-Zero, sneak into the building. We then figure out Jax isn't very smart because he could have just walked away. But he goes and tries to kill Sub-Zero. And we do get the little fight scene, which is actually pretty well done, where Sub-Zero freezes the gun and Jax pulls the trigger and the pellets, barely make it out of the front of the barrel and they all freeze and it looks awesome.
This fight is awesome, for sure.
Yeah. So Jax, he doesn't put up much of a real challenge for Sub-Zero. He gets his arms frozen and then shattered, and then he gets kicked off a higher basically just the second floor of this building. He gets kicked down to the first floor and bangs his head off the side of the thing. He's not looking good at the end of this fight.
That's the best bump of the movie, by the way.
Oh, that mid-fall one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt that one. I was like, oh, man. Him getting his arms broken off, I was like, damn, that sucks. But then that one, I was like, that's even worse, because you can't even put your arms out.
There were there were some Easter eggs that we've kind of skipped over so far. And earlier in the MMA gym, I don't know if you noticed right in the beginning of the movie that there was a Johnny Cage movie poster on the wall, which...
No, I didn't notice that until the end.
Pays off later. And then here, while Jax and Sub-Zero are fighting, at the spot where Sub-Zero freezes the barrel of the shotgun, on the wall behind them, it's blurred out because it's out of focus. But for whatever reason, some tagger has decided to paint down arrow, forward arrow, LP on the wall, which is the formula for the freeze move.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It's very silly, but
yeah,
that's fan service 101. Who the fuck would spray that on the wall?
I didn't even notice that one. That's cool. That's awesome.
So Sub-Zero fucks up Jax. Basically, he probably figures he killed him, leaves him for dead, because that's what Shang Tsung told him to do. Go kill all the Earthrealm champions.
Yeah.
We see Cole Young, and every time it comes back to the Cole crew, I hate this movie. To me, it's like the humans from Godzilla King of the Monsters. I just don't like these people.
I'm way more interested in the people around Cole than Cole himself, which is not what you want out of a protagonist.
100%. You fucking nailed it again. And
don't put him in this movie with people that with characters that people have known and liked for 30 years. He's not this is not the time to introduce a new main event, just
agreed.
Just put the new ones in it. This could have just been Liu Kang or somebody.
You took the words right out of my mouth. The first time I watched this, I was like, I don't like this guy. I hate his wife and daughter. They're both not good actresses. Spoilers for another not good casting. The wife is not good. Mm-hmm. And I just, every time it focuses on them, I don't like the movie. I'm like, fuck these people. Get them off screen. Where is someone cool? The second time I watched the movie, just about an hour ago, I'm thinking, why is this not just Scorpion? And you said Liu Kang. I would have loved it being Liu Kang as well. Why did they feel the need to do this original character? As soon as that detail came out, everybody was like, oh, I don't think I like that. And then in practice, no, you don't like it. It sucks.
Yeah, basically.
So anyway, the wife and the daughter and Cole, they drive away. And they I don't know how old the daughter is. She seems like a teenager, but they put her to bed. And the Cole tells the wife she's finally asleep. And I'm thinking, where the fuck are the police?
Are they dealing with the sudden ice storm downtown Chicago?
This is Earth. They're in Chicago. There are cops here. If there was a fucking car chase and a guy with a gun who got his arms blown off by a ninja, where are the police?
It's out of their jurisdiction. They're it's above our pay grade. Can't be doing this.
So many of my notes are just about shitty dialogue, because in this moment the wife goes, because he's talking about what if more things show up, and the wife goes, Jax could have killed it. This is just normal to her. She's like, oh, I played Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. Jax probably took care of it.
Yeah, he can win.
So we're back to Outworld, and I don't even know if you remember this, but it's just a fucking quarry in a desert. Like,
there's nothing like really outstanding about it. Why would Shang Tsung put a chair there? Like,
and this is where we meet Melina, who's just walking around, and then she sees like Shang Tsung and some people following him. She's like, "Oh, I'll catch up to them," and this is right out of Mortal Kombat Annihilation, where it's instead of Shao Kahn talking to Rain and Motaro and Shiva, and they're coming up with like war plans, it's Melina talking to Shang Tsung, and he gives her the war plan of send in the reptilian Syzoth. And I don't know why they didn't just call him Reptile. And I actually had to Google this. Syzoth is Reptile's real name, which was only revealed in Mortal Kombat X. I don't even remember that. I don't know if you do.
Oh, okay. See, I knew he had, like, was it like the Zeteran species? Was like their, or they're sometimes just called like the Raptors or whatever. But like it, I guess it makes sense that he would have his own just individual name. But that also, by naming him like his own unique name, that means there are more that we just never see. So it never really pays off. It could have just been like send in Reptile.
Exactly.
We would have been fine with it.
And it continues the formula of this movie of show Shang Tsung, he says what's going to happen, then it happens. Because we see Sonya is explaining to Cole what the dragon marking means, and she says that Jax didn't have one, and he took down a target and then it appeared on his skin. This is Mortal Kombat Annihilation!
Yep, it's the teleport dragon things.
Dude, fucking... In that movie, it's like, oh, everyone has this dragon tattoo, and then when you die, the dragon, like, leaves your body. Of all the lore they could have borrowed from, they borrowed from what Ed Boon says is the lowest point in Mortal Kombat history.
They're like, we're gonna make it good. You didn't.
What did you think about Sonya describing her research here?
I mean... Apart from her just coming off as like a weird conspiracy theorist with like a pegboard on the wall with like red string and all that kind of stuff, like I guess it was fine. Like, just because I don't know how I would go about starting to research something like this either. So, pretty much like however you got to do it, you do it. I did like all the little Easter eggs they showed on the actual like the board that she was showing Cole. Like, you did get to see, like, Nightwolf.
Yep.
You saw Kotal Khan. There was, like, a little Motaro, like, silhouette on there somewhere. And,
like, that was
actually something, too. Like, me and Mountain Man were talking about it before. Like, is this movie... It seems like it's going to stay fairly grounded, even though you got superpowers and stuff. I'm like, what if they just put in, like, Motaro? Just saying, fuck it. And then there he was. He was in there.
You know what? If they... You know what? I kind of... hope they don't do Motaro because, and we'll get to this, but Goro looked better in 1995 than he does in 2021.
Yeah, he's a whole lot of uncanny valley in this movie with Goro.
Yeah.
He gets treated a lot better in 95 too, I can tell you.
Oh man, we're gonna get there. Fucking, what you had a great line there about Sonya and her research, and you said, I don't know where I would start with my research, and that's one of the things that I wrote down. She's talking about, my research shows that there's realms and species we didn't even know existed. That dragon marking, it signifies that you've been chosen to fight for Earth. And I'm thinking, did she fucking Google this? Where did she get this information? And then we see this brilliant, like, painting on a cave wall that says, Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Which Cole points out is spelled incorrectly, which I did like.
Oh my god.
I like that. Yeah, it has a K. It's stupid.
That line, and then just it's an invitation to fight for something known as Mortal Kombat. This dialogue is... Listen, when I was younger, when I was like 12, I used to write my own Halloween movie scripts. And I wrote my own Mortal Kombat movie script, and by wrote, I mean I started it and I never finished it. Mm-hmm. This is what my dialogue sounded like. And I was 13.
Like, it makes sense for Raiden to say corny stuff like that, because it's like, well, he's the guy who knows about it,
Yes.
and like all these other characters are just now finding out about it. But it doesn't have quite the same like impact coming from Sonya, who is basically just still guessing.
She's totally guessing, and
Like,
you said she sounds like a conspiracy theorist, and I wrote down one of her lines that, to me, is trope number one of writing like a cop who knows something's going on here. She's like, "There's more to this, Cole. I know it." Like,
yeah.
just fucking. Let's just say it's great. I pulled a line from my buddy Giuseppe when he was watching Kong vs. Godzilla, and he was trying to like fill in the gaps of certain things he didn't remember. He said, "This feels like a sequel to a movie I didn't see." And that's kind of what this felt like to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Some of these scenes where they're just like, they rely on the audience, I think, to know a lot coming into this movie, which is great. But it's also going to be what kills this movie dead in a lot of people's eyes, because your Mortal Kombat fans, they don't want to see this. And your people who aren't Mortal Kombat fans are going to be totally lost.
Yeah. Speaking of totally lost, who shows up next to get another showdown going here?
Well, we look over and we see Kano just tied to a chair. Like, he's been there.
I forgot to introduce Kano.
Yeah, he's over there, like, just taunting him, mocking him. He starts right away with like some of the better lines in this whole movie, where they're basically keeping him around because he has the mark on him, and Sonya says like that she doesn't have one, and you hear Kano in the background like wah wah.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was great. And like, they don't even sell it, they just go about, like, they continue their conversation as if he didn't say anything. Which is like, that just made it funnier to me.
I have to say, Kano is really good in this movie. There's a problem that I have with him later, but his writing is great. I do think he's genuinely funny. And he talks, which nobody else in this movie does, but Kano talks like a real person. To where Cole tells him, after the lights go out, which is where we're getting, Cole's like, "Sit tight." And he's like, "Oh, I was going to go for a stroll, you fucking idiot." Say, like, I feel like snapping at someone like that in movies is usually, it's not written right and it feels contrived. That's exactly what I would say.
Yeah.
So it felt real. I liked it.
So after that little dialogue, we see Reptile creeping in. That's right now, right? That's about when this happens?
Yep.
All right, so pretty good. I like this fight scene. Like, Kano gets freed because he realizes that Reptile's like acid will like break the chains that are holding him.
Mm-hmm.
And they have their fight. Kano eventually like punches through Reptile's chest and pulls his heart out, which is a nice little classic throwback. And Reptile fans around the world just watch Reptile die yet again, as he's done for the better part of his career.
Dude, I love Reptile, and he was the first ever hidden character, and so it made him feel so special. But literally ever since 1992, except for maybe one flash of brilliance, he's a career jobber, and I think we just have to accept that.
I don't know why they picked Reptile for this. Like,
good question.
Baraka was too busy or something that day.
But, I love Baraka too.
Yeah, Baraka is definitely like jobber to the stars. We know this about right. Baraka, but I might be like jumping the gun a little bit here too. But like, protect Goro at all costs. Put Reptile there and put Baraka here, or vice versa. Switch them around, because whatever. But don't do that to Goro. Like, what is this movie thinking?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that. And it drives me nuts because we'll get there. I'm saving my Goro notes. But how did you feel about Reptile having Sizoth having his full reptilian form here with not even a hint of a human disguise? We're just straight up, he's a big iguana.
That didn't bother me. Was it Deadly Alliance or one of those where he basically was that? Yeah,
that's where he had completely shed his human shit.
And he was like a tail and like basically looked like a dinosaur kind of. So like that didn't, I was like, all right, so they're pulling from a different version of Reptile, and I'm fine with it. It would have looked a lot weirder if some fucking green ninja just started attacking him and like appearing out of like from invisibility and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, okay. And plus this makes it, again, maybe a little different for anybody who doesn't know what they're watching. They're like, wait a minute, is that the ice guy again?
Yeah.
Like, they, you know, you just wouldn't run into that, I guess. But I didn't mind it. I thought the design was decent enough, and it made it easy to, you know, have Reptile stand out and be looked at as an immediate threat because he just looks like a fucking dinosaur.
I agree. I think the design was cool, and I like how he moves around like an actual lizard. Like, he's crawling on all fours, and then eventually he's, like, standing up and going toe-to-toe with them. He uses his tail a lot. I think Reptile looked awesome, and we just talked about Goro for a second. Goro looks like shit, and maybe it's because Goro is much more human, so we have an idea of what that is supposed to look like, where we don't know what a bipedal 6'6" lizard is supposed to look like, so it gets a pass.
Yeah, that might be it too.
So Kano, they kind of team up. Sonya does this ridiculous, like, diving 360 stab thing, which is really funny, but Kano then rips Reptile's heart out and has a great line. He's like, "Ah, fucking beauty." He's just, like, squeezing it. At no point do any of them question how this lizard is fighting them.
That's true, yeah. They're just like, all right, we're getting a little too close to uncovering the truth here. This is all the proof we need.
It kind of...
I also, like, going back earlier, like, Kano's apparently just some accomplished artist because he drew some beautiful picture.
Yeah, that's right where we go next. It's the downtime after the fight, and he has drawn this photo of him ripping the heart out of Reptile. And yeah, it looks fucking awesome.
Like, we got no context for that either. He's just over there drawing pictures because he's bored.
Yeah, and they set that he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have a graphic novel someday." No, you don't. You die in this movie.
Yeah, sorry, bud.
But that conversation from there spawns into they're trying to figure out what they should do next, and Kano just drops this line about like, "Oh, you're gonna head to Raiden's temple. I used to run guns through there. The locals wouldn't shut the fuck up about it." Sonya goes, "Nobody knows where it is." Kano just told you he's been there a bunch of times. So, yeah. A lot of people know where it is.
Apparently all the locals there do. Yeah, they're like, "Stop bringing guns here." Like, they all get mad at him for it.
How did you feel about... Because that's where we head. We get on a fucking plane, and Kano and Cole and Sonya dive out of a plane, and they head to Raiden's temple. Fill us in here.
So this is basically like taking the place of like the Temple of the Order of Light or whatever it is. Like, this is the facsimile for that, pretty much. I'm trying to remember exactly what happens here. I'm pretty sure they like get like ambushed by like Liu Kang. Like he.
You nailed it. They're just like walking through a desert, and Kano and Sonya have a little bit of a tiff.
That's right. Because Kano gets hit with a fireball. And like, "How the fuck do you do that?" Whatever he says. Like, he's just mad. And Liu Kang, realizes like they're there for that reason, and so he brings them to the temple. And shortly after going into the temple, we actually see they have Jax there, and they're like building him these like rudimentary metal like arms out of like just whatever they got laying around, I guess.
Which is so great because you even call them rudimentary metal arms. Liu Kang tells Sonya, what was the line? I wrote it down. He was like, "We have searched every realm for a way to heal him, and you found steel?"
That's what they're doing. Yeah.
I thought that was great, and I should mention, Kano only agreed to help them because Sonya offered him $3 million, and
yes,
that's where, like, in that moment, Cole is like, "You're going to offer this psychopath $3 million? Can you afford that?" And she's like, "I've lived here all my life. I don't have $3 million. That's where I was like, oh, Sonya's actress sucks too. And I like it. I don't know how they settled on some of these people, or maybe it's the direction. Maybe it's not the actors and actresses.
I've seen her in other things, and I don't remember thinking she was like particularly bad. So like, it might also be the direction, because everybody acts like this in this movie.
Yeah,
dude.
Go ahead.
What I miss about like the old movies in, like in both of them actually, there are like absolute scene stealers who every time they're on the screen, they're the best. Like Shang Tsung in the first movie,
Yep.
or like even in Annihilation, like Jax, he's awesome. Every time he's on screen, he's like, oh yeah, I gotta listen to this guy. He's great. Like there really isn't that in this movie. I can't think of any one of those characters apart from Kano. I guess Kano is the only exception, maybe.
Yeah, pretty much everybody is totally flat, and we're getting to Kung Lao in a little bit, but his arc for this movie is he shows up, he's like, I am Kung Lao, and then he dies. Like, what the fuck? But they go to Raiden's temple, Liu Kang leads them there, and they find Jax, and this was another moment where I was like, where are the cool ass locations from even 1995? We had the island where the fights take place. We had the gigantic tower where Goro and Johnny Cage fight. We had the ship, which we mentioned earlier. We go inside the ship and there's all these hanging chains. So far, we've seen a hot dog stand, an MMA gym, and now a cave in a desert. Like,
yeah, Sonya's house.
There's like no imagination to any of this. In one of the most fantastical video game franchises with nearly 30 years of lore, why is this taking place where it takes place? It just, the waste of that was kind of driving me nuts the whole time.
I don't have any numbers in front of me at all, but do you know what the budget was for this?
I think it was 50 mil.
All right, so enough to.
That's a lot of money.
Better, yeah. It's enough to do better. Like the original one was like 25 and change, I think. And
yeah.
It got done. It did what it did. Which was, say what you will about the quality of the movie today. Like locations and everything, the scenery and everything looked pretty good.
I agree. Inside of Raiden's temple, Liu Kang's guiding them through, and that's where we see the murals on the wall. And there are all sorts of Easter eggs here that, again, you have to be a hardcore fan to realize that the one mural is Argus and Delia, who only appear in Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Like, never again.
Yep.
There's one of Shao Kahn, like, swinging his hammer, and it's directly from Mortal Kombat 11. So
yeah, it looks just like that McFarlane action figure I just bought. I was like, oh, he's got the exact, like, helmet and that's him. Okay.
And that kind of threw me for a loop there, because we see this big bad Shao Kahn swinging this hammer, and there's like bodies, and it looks like chaos. And I think it's Sonya says like, "This is Outworld," and Liu Kang says like, "It's the worst of all the realms." I'm pretty sure we just saw it, and it was just a fucking cliff with Shang Tsung walking around and Melina with her weird teeth and fat ass.
It was a comment. Yeah, that's something I said to Mountain Man. I'm like, damn, Melina got an ass on her.
Dude, Melina packing that dump truck. You know what I'm saying?
I'm saying, leave the mask on. We're good.
So it's just the inconsistency of the imagery of Outworld makes it seem so scary and like you never want to be there. And when we see it, it's just like, it's a quarry.
Yeah, like you don't actually see any like Outworld like locations until the end of the movie where they all start getting like teleported around to different fights. And like at that point, I'm like, all right, well some of these locations are pretty good. Where was this creativity earlier in the movie?
Yep. And dude, there's a great line where Liu Kang says to Sonya, like, I've been searching for Earthrealm's champions. And I wrote down, like, bitch, you were walking around the desert.
Yeah. Liu Kang strikes me as, like, a much younger version of Liu Kang than we've ever seen before.
Yes.
Maybe it's just because the actor just looks like he belongs in, like, a boy band because he's just Liu Kang is a very pretty man in this movie.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, he's a pretty son of a bitch.
Yeah. But he also strikes me, like you said, like, he's supposed to be looking for warriors, but it's like, I don't know. He goes outside, kind of like looks from one side of the street to the other, and he's like, I can't find him. All right.
Well, I don't think they're here.
It's like, you got me out here in the desert. What warriors am I going to find?
The one warrior he found was Jax, who was basically dead.
Yeah.
And before that, Jax found Cole, and Sonya and Jax together found Kano. So how did these two special forces people find more people than you did, and you have Raiden's like immediate portals?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that was fucked up.
But I did like, there's the Great Kung Lao mural on the wall. There's like the Shinnok amulet that Kano tries to steal.
Yeah.
I think you see a katana fan.
Yep.
Like there's like little stuff like that. Like, okay, like that's cool that they're including all that. But at the same time, it just makes me want to see those characters that I know are just not going to be in this movie.
I agree there, and all the stuff that you're talking about, the Great Kung Lao and like Delian Argus, like we said, even the Shinnok's amulet, that's all super hardcore, super deep cuts. So that kind of makes us feel like, oh, they made this movie for us. They made this movie for people who love Mortal Kombat. Then why the fuck does it star this Cole Young guy?
I'm like, they made this movie for us, with us in mind, but maybe they hate us. And they're like, we want you to know.
Ugh. So
I should reiterate that I had a good time watching this movie, and I think it's fine overall. But it's easy to find fault with some of the decisions they made.
Yeah, me too. And I said the second time I watched it, I came around a little more on it, but a lot of this stuff just drove me nuts. So like with my second viewing, me coming around is kind of me just being like, okay, now I understand what this is. It's still not what I wanted, but now that I know what it is, I'll go along for the ride. You know
what you're in for a little bit more now.
Yeah, and it's like the stuff that they did well, I think they did really well. Going into this movie, I was like, all they need to do is include the characters we want and violence. And they did do that. And I think maybe that's not all they needed to do. I think it needed a little more.
I think partly the audience expectations might have been set a little too low going into this.
Yeah.
Just because off the back of like Annihilation would have been the last movie, and apart from having that crowd of people who watches it as like a guilty pleasure and they just have a good time with it because it's so silly, like people wanted this movie to deliver on so many different like levels that I don't know if it could. Like, there's always going to be something missing. There's always going to be the people that are like, well, where's all the lore? This is nothing but violence. But then, if you do it the other way around, you're going to be like, well, it's Mortal Kombat. There needs to be more blood. What are they doing? Like, they messed that up. So, like, it's, like, MK fans are... There's very little room to, like, meet in the middle and make everyone happy, I think.
And I think one of the things they could have done to make people more happy is don't do this Cole Young bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know how much more I would have liked this movie if that was not here?
Yeah, like I said, like we were saying before, like that could have easily just been a different character. You could have even taken like a C-list like deception character and put him in that role.
Yeah.
And that's Cobra Young, whatever.
Cobra Young.
I mean, it's stupid, but at least it's still a Mortal Kombat thing.
Yeah.
It's not just some new guy.
In this moment, after we see around the temple and everything, Shang Tsung and the Goon Squad show up, and there's a kind of a standoff here. It doesn't get into a full fight because Raiden shows up and he puts like the electrical force field around the temple, and the bad guys have to like fuck off and figure out how to come back. But Kano has a great line. Oh, and I should say this is where Kung Lao shows up, and Subzero's fucking up Liu Kang, and then Kung Lao shows up and kind of saves him. And he's like, I am Kung Lao, the descendant of the great Kung Lao, the grand champion. And it's like, all right, again, only hardcores know what you're talking about. Only hardcores know that the great Kung Lao was killed by Goro. But whatever.
I refuse to believe that after Goro's performance in this movie.
Dude, you're telling me.
The great Kung Lao must have, like, I don't know, he had his Wikipedia entry changed by somebody because he went out different.
Kano has a great line here after he sees like Sub-Zero and Kung Lao, and he's just like, oh, I get the superpowers. It's like a box of chocolates. Could be shit. Could be Frisbee hat. Which is, I love that. Just shitting on Kung Lao directly to his face.
Yeah, yep. We just saw him teleport up through the ground and like do awesome moves, and Kano's still there just like running him down. Great.
What do you think of these like entire middle section of the movie is training montages trying to get everyone to realize their powers.
I mean, I guess it was. I don't really know. Like, I don't have a strong opinion of it because I was just kind of like, well, they do need to explain where some of these characters get their abilities, and it turns out it's like you basically just make fun of Kano until he gets mad, and that's how he gets his abilities. But yeah, like they're trying to figure out, like, okay, well, how are we going to train these guys up? Because there was that scene with Raiden where he's like, none of you guys are ready for this. You don't even have a dragon logo on you, Sonya. You're useless. Like, yeah, like he's he's basically just running through them all, telling them they ain't shit, and like Shang Tsung's going to kill him pretty much. So I don't know. Like, I mean, it would have been weird going into this movie if they all just already had established powers, like Liu Kang when we first see him. That's like a real like, oh shit moment when he does the fireball, because none of them have that.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of like the training montages?
I was kind of bored with these, and I think it was because I didn't really buy into anybody. I didn't feel like I had any reason to even be rooting for them, whereas I was like, man, Subzero's dope. Show me more Subzero can kill all these guys. I don't give a shit. Just show me more Subzero.
Make the movie about him.
Yeah, like, honestly, make it about Subzero. This whole thing could have been Subzero and Scorpion. This kind of the same way that Scorpion's Revenge was, the animated movie that they just did.
Yeah,
that was
that
awesome.
First scene was basically just very similar. So like, I kind of thought that we were going to get a lot more of that in this movie.
Yep, and I was like, I was kind of bored by this, and then we find out like Liu Kang got his powers because he killed a child trafficker, and like that's how he realized his, what do they call them, Akanas in this movie?
Akanas, yeah,
so that's how he got his. We see Jax with his first set of robot arms, which look weird, and we get further on that later, but
yeah.
Kano harnessing the power of his eye laser over a fucking egg roll was one of the things where I think I officially checked out on my first viewing. And on my second viewing, my guard was more down because I knew what I was getting into, and I was kind of thinking like, should I just accept this? Is this silly enough to where him figuring this out over an egg roll, am I taking this too seriously? And maybe I am, but I was like, when I was telling my brother about this earlier today, we were on the phone, I was like, of all of the Mortal Kombat movie scripts that must have come through over the years, there are just parts of this one where I'm like, how is this the one that they greenlit? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that too. Like, ever since Annihilation in like 97, like they've had a third movie, or at least a reboot movie, that's been like on the table for years.
Yep.
Like I remember the pitch for an MK movie was that first like Legacy or whatever it was, like the very short one with like Jerry Ryan and this guy, the guy that played Spawn. Well, who was it?
Michael Jai White.
Yes, that's right. And like it's just them interrogating Scorpion in an office, and it's like a little 10-minute thing. And that was kind of going to be their pitch for a movie. Now that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, people have wanted a Mortal Kombat movie all this time, and like this is the one they chose. This is what they went with.
I did get a little bit of a laugh, not over Kano's line, although this was great. After he gets his eye laser, he looks at Liu Kang. He's like, better than fireballs, you pussy. Which was awesome.
Yeah.
But I just love the tone deafness of Cole has a little cut on his arm, and Liu Kang was like giving him some like acupuncture treatment or whatever, like trying to heal it. And then they're sitting around the dinner table. Jax walks in with these fucking robot arms sticking out of these horrible wounds. Liu Kang looks at Cole's scratch and goes, "How's your arm?" It's like, can somebody check on Jax, please? Oh, goodness gracious.
I didn't even pick up on that. That's great.
It just made me laugh. But is this where Raiden, like, this is where he tells Cole, like, oh, you're a descendant of Hanzo Hasashi, one of, like, the greatest warriors ever?
I believe so. Because as I check my my notes, the next thing I have in here after Shinnok Amulet is Cabal Mob Boss. So I'm like, we're in between there, I think.
Yeah, so, yeah, Raiden tells him that's his lineage, and I'm thinking, like, why didn't he just tell him that earlier? But then we're in Outworld, and Shang Tsung is just like, here's Natara, Cabal, and Rico.
Yeah, Rico. Like, of all the characters, this is what you're going... And I get it. You know, you just need jobbers, basically.
Yeah.
And nobody... The biggest Reiko fan in the world is not going to care that he, like, jobs out in this movie. They're just going to be happy he's in this movie.
Do you know who that was playing him?
No, I don't think so.
That was former WWE superstar Nathan Jones.
Really?
Yes, indeed.
Nathan Jones.
The Colossus of Boggle Road.
Yeah, I remember. He was the guy that was supposed to be, like, he was the Undertaker's, like, understudy there for a little bit.
Yeah.
But then they realized he sucks, and so they're just like, Undertaker's like, I'm just going to fight fucking Big Show and Albert myself or whatever.
Was it Nathan Jones or Heidenreich that butt-fucked Michael Cole?
That's Heidenreich, I think.
They're interchangeable.
Yep, the Legion of Doom's own Heidenreich.
Oh my good. Oh god, I forgot about that.
I'm sorry.
What did you think about Natara's design here?
I'm not familiar enough with Natara as a character. That was kind of around those like 3D like PS2, Xbox era games that I just didn't play a ton of.
Yeah.
And like, you know, some friends of mine in college had them and I would play them here and there, but like, you know, I never got too attached to any of these characters from around this time. So I could honestly take or leave this design. I was okay with it.
I wasn't impressed with it. I didn't hate it, but I was just like, really? This kind of like Shang Tsung. It looks kind of cheap, and I don't know if she has a single line in the whole movie. I think she just kind of shows up and then she jobs in a minute. But this is where Shang Tsung, once again, we're still following the formula of Shang Tsung introducing new people, go do this thing, so they go do it. Now, right after he says that, we see some doors open, and we see a four-armed shadow. This is at the 1 hour and 5 minute mark of the movie. We see Goro's shadow.
Yes.
It is at the 1 hour and 8 minute mark that Goro shows up to a farmhouse and beats up a truck.
Yep. They call him Prince Goro, too. So, like, even anybody who doesn't know what they're looking at is like, oh, this guy's a big deal. He's, like, royalty. And, yeah, then he just shows up in somebody's barn. And again, like I said before, this should have been, like, Baraka or somebody.
Yep.
Because his treatment was just, like, they neutered this man. Like, this poor Goro.
So they bounce back and forth here between a couple fights. So let's just focus on the Goro section right now. He shows up, like you said, totally neutered. Let's dive into that. In the 95 movie, we see Goro's shadow a couple times. So the seed has been planted of what the fuck is that monster thing? We see Goro sitting on the throne, because he's Prince Goro, in this beautiful fucking room with stalactites and this big feast on the table. Goro has a full-on conversation with Kano and basically tells Kano, like, listen, I know you're on our side, but I will fuck you up. Like,
Yeah.
Goro doesn't play. He doesn't give a shit. He will kill you. And we see Goro kill like 50 dudes in a row. You can't touch him. He's been established as the champion for centuries. And then he fights Johnny Cage, and Johnny Cage only wins because he like knocks him off a cliff. And he knows he can't fuck with Goro, so he climbs up this wall and he gets him on this little ledge because he's like, this is the only chance I have. Tell us how Cole Young fights Goro.
I mean, I don't remember anything of substance. I remember he just beats him up.
He beats his
hits
ass.
him with the uppercut, you know, his big finish.
It, like, they fight through the fucking barn, which, again, 30 years of lore and settings, 11 games worth of all these cool stages, but we're fighting in a fucking farmhouse for some reason. Dude, I checked out a second time when Goro grabs Cole Young, and he's like, now I will remove your spine. And the wife goes, fuck this, and picks up an axe.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
I was like, I hope Goro pulls a Godzilla on the Muto from Godzilla 2014. Just grab her jawbones and rip her to pieces.
Yeah.
But nope, she gets
Honestly,
her shit
if
in.
that was how they decided to establish Cole's Arcana, like, I would get it a little more.
But instead, he just kind of chucks her aside, and then the bracelet that the daughter made him turns into this, like, armor that can absorb punishment and seemingly, like, turn it into power that he can use, I guess?
Plot armor?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, at this point, Goro's been hit with an axe by the wife, shoves her away. Cole has his armor on now, so he's doing much better in the fight. I think Goro loses a hand here at some point too.
Yeah, he forms weapons off of the armor, and
because he has like little tonfa things, and
cuts Goro's hand off, slashes him up the chest real deep. Oh, but we can't forget when Goro's getting the best of him. The daughter shouts, "Use your uppercut!" And not only does he not do it, he kills Goro by slicing him, and then he like stabs him through the eyeball, so he doesn't do the uppercut.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Again, I wrote down, after the use your uppercut again, I wrote down, fuck you. I hate these people. I hate them so much.
At this point, yeah, like in my notes, I think I have like this movie just fucking falls apart right here. Like,
completely.
Yeah,
so
turns to shit.
I put down the detail. We see Goro's shadow at 105. We see him in person at 108. Now, keep in mind there are other fights taking place at the same time. Goro dies 9 minutes after he is first mentioned.
It's so puzzling to me. Like, the pacing of this movie, like Shang Tsung just constantly introducing these characters. It's almost as if they wanted this to be like episodic. And like Shang Tsung at the beginning of the episode is like, I'll send Reptile to kill him. And then at the end of the episode, Reptile dies. And then at the beginning of the next episode, he's like, all right, send we're going to go to Raiden's house. And then at the end, they just get told to leave.
Yeah.
Like, that's what this seems like to me, is like little bits of an installments of like something bigger. And this Goro arc lasted, like 7 or 8 minutes or whatever. Yep. And that's all you got.
That was it. And
Goro, like, I know you said, like, he looks garbage. I think he looks good for a video game design. Like, if that was in a video game, I'd be totally cool with it. Mm-hmm. But there's just it's such a weird juxtaposition of him interacting with, like, real world scenery. Yes. And it's not even like movie stylized real world, like Mortal Kombat scenery. It's like just somebody's barn. That's not where I want to see Goro at all, but it's also not where I want to see like CG fight scene Goro.
And like what you're saying is spot on, because and I know it's not fair to constantly compare it to the 95 movie, but I'm fucking doing it. So
that's all we got.
Yeah,
really.
We see Goro in the 95 movie, and every time we see him, it's usually in an environment that is dark, and when it's not dark, it's still like this really like brown area where he kind of blends in with everything, and it looks like a place where you would see a 4-armed, 8'2", half man, half dragon. Mm-hmm. To your point, I don't want to see Goro trying to bash in a fucking F-150 from 1997. It looks so fucking stupid.
It's like kind of along the same logic you said, where like I don't want to see Subzero just walking up the street.
Yeah,
like he's out of place. Like I think that's what the deal is with Goro. He's just so out of place. Like you couldn't have had that fight in Outworld or something, like where Goro would have looked a little bit more natural, and people could have been like, "Oh shit! Like this is what's in Outworld. This is why they were saying how it's like such a chaotic and terrible realm to be."
And like, imagine it taking place in any of the levels from the games. We establish in just a few minutes that Raiden can send anyone anywhere at any time, even people who don't agree with it. He can non-consensually just teleport you somewhere, even if you're somewhere else. You don't even have to be next to him. So with that in mind, why is Goro fighting a truck on a farmhouse plot? Imagine if Goro versus Cole Young took place over the dead pool with like the pools of acid and the hanging hooks. What if it took place in like the prison stage from Deadly Alliance, where there's all these cells and there could have been background characters like reaching through the bars and shit.
Just stuck in the prisons, yeah.
Why is this taking place on a farmhouse?
That's why I asked about the budget before too. I was like, maybe it's just insanely low and they couldn't get the locations they wanted, or they couldn't get enough like of a team together to be able to create that for this movie. But I don't know. Like, I don't have an answer for that.
The other fights that were taking place during this one, we just focused on the Goro section for now, was we kind of see Melina going head-to-head with Sonya. Jax takes on Rico. And these are kind of just throwaway setup fights, so at least the Outworld guys get a little bit of shit in here. Yeah. But we do see in this moment, and I'll let you take it from here, Shang Tsung calls in Natara to fight Kung Lao.
Okay, yeah. So this is actually like kind of a highlight of the movie for me, because I do like Kung Lao's scenes in this movie. Now, prior to this, we had seen him training up Cole, and he was basically just trying to like get him ready for everything he was going to have to be doing. And we see Cole kind of like learning, like standing on his own against Kung Lao. And we understand that Kung Lao is like miles ahead of Cole at this point, so he's not giving it his all. But he is swinging his hat around at him, so like he could kill him. Yeah. But then the fight with Natara, he does his like MK9 fatality where he does like the buzzsaw on the ground.
Yep.
And just pushes her through it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Kung Lao's a beast. He's the main event. Look at him go. And then he just gets his soul taken right away.
He gets, or as Cabal tells Liu Kang, he's about to get his soul sucked. Yeah. And I gotta say, you talked about the Kung Lao fatality, which looks great. I loved it. I saw someone say online that like some of the blood and the effects, it looked like PlayStation, but if there's one thing I'm not going to complain about in this movie, it's the violence. I think every time that they gave us hardcore violence, I think it looked fucking sick, and I will not trash that at all.
I do, like, I hear what the, not complaint, but I do hear the point about it being, like, a little bit, like, PS3, like, blood, like, I get that. But at the same time, yeah, you're right. I can't be mad at a Mortal Kombat movie for doing something with, like, over-the-top blood.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. And in those instances, they delivered. So, but yeah, like you said, that's where Shang Tsung kind of is, he doesn't say it, but the feeling is like, well, if you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself. So he grabs Kung Lao, sucks his soul, kills him. That looks really cool. Not gonna take anything away from that. It is, I mean, I guess an Earthrealm guy had to die to give it some weight. So we do lose Kung Lao a little early for my liking, but it does feel important because him and Liu Kang had been like established as a tag team. So whereas I wanted the Cole Young whole family dead, I was bummed that they killed Kung Lao, which means that they were writing him pretty decently.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get much time with him, but we did see enough of him to be like, oh yeah, that's Kung Lao. That's the guy we know from the games and the guy that we like.
This is where Raiden is like, okay, we got to get the fuck out of here. And he zaps everybody into this just totally white, foggy setting. And he's like, we are in the void. It's the space between your realm and my realm. And this is another point where I'm like, there were so many settings to choose from. And we're in a place here that has no detail. There's nothing going on here. Like
They could have very easily made that somewhere else. Like, I don't know why they didn't. And again, I didn't even think about that until just now when you said it. It's like, yeah, that should have literally been any other stage or anything from the games that we would recognize. My thing with it was a little bit more like, why didn't they just go there first? Raiden wouldn't have had to make a force field around the temple. Raiden wouldn't have had to do any of that. Like, they would have never got ambushed. They would have just been there. Like, totally protected.
To your point of why didn't they go there first, this is also where Raiden gives Cole the ancient scorpion spear and is like, oh, this has Hanzo Hisashi's blood on it. He's your ancestor. Once again, why didn't he tell him this immediately?
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
Why didn't he give him that fucking spear immediately? But
it's like as soon as he showed up, that should have happened. That's like, I don't know, that's like protagonist building 101. Like Star Wars. The first thing when Obi-Wan rescues Luke from the Sand People and brings him by his house, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I have this lightsaber that used to be your dad's. Here you go. That's the first scene they're in like together.
Oh my god.
There you go. The movie takes off from there. Raiden's like, I never fucking seen Star Wars, so I'm going to just drag this on.
On the subject of it could have been any setting other than the Void, which they invented for this movie, which makes me question, once again, like you did earlier, like the budget. Like, is this just an excuse because you didn't want to build a set or something? But
yeah.
When like, imagine right here, if somebody had just given them the note when they got like an early copy of the movie before everything was done. Can you just imagine if like Raiden zapped them somewhere that just looked all fucked up and shit was on fire and it was chaos, and somebody maybe like Sonya goes, Raiden, why does this look like the place from those paintings? And Raiden's just like, this is Outworld. Even this is safer from where we just were. Like, we could have seen a few seconds of Outworld right there, but instead, no, it's the Void.
Yeah, the Void.
And that would have, like, given so much more strength to the bad guys to say, like, even being unprotected in Outworld right now is a safer bet than staying where we were because we were fucked.
Yeah, that would have definitely put the villains over a little bit more, too. They're like, we needed to be apart from them at any, like, for every reason that I could think of. We just needed to be, like, put as much distance between us and them as possible. And going to Outworld, yeah, it sucks, but it's still safer because they don't know where we are.
Yeah. So then Raiden, like, everybody kind of has a powwow, and Liu Kang is just like, we're lost without Kung Lao, and Cole Young is just like, we can't stop fighting, we need to keep going. And Jax and Sonya are immediately all smiles. They're like, you know what, he's right. And
yeah.
I was like, the tone of this is all over the place, but that's where Jax is like, Raiden, you can send anyone, anywhere, right? And Raiden's like, oh yeah, I can do that. So Raiden basically books Jax versus Rico on the Pit.
Yep.
We finally get the Pit in a Mortal Kombat movie in a live action setting, and they don't use it.
Criminal. Just absolute waste of an opportunity. Like, don't get me wrong, that Jax and Reiko fight, the way it ended, I was like, yeah, that's cool. I like that. But why would you pick the Pit to have the place, like, to be the place to have that fight if you're not going to use the Pit?
Dude, seeing the Pit, and it's right there. We can see bodies down there that are impaled on the spikes. To show it to us, and it's like, oh my god, it's finally going to happen. It's been almost 30 years. We're finally going to see this. And they don't use it is worse than not having it at all, in my opinion.
You could have rebooked the Sonya Kano fight in the Pit or something. Like,
oh my god, dude. So, okay, Jax and Rico happens. Jax he does the head clap. Looks awesome, blood everywhere, and Jax is like, with his new arms, he's like, oh, these motherfuckers work. And I was like, yeah, dude, Jax is still dope. You gotta love Jax.
Yep. But I did, like, that was his Arcana. I was just like, wait, so he gets, like, Chronica arms. That's his thing? Because they just start forming with, like, the plates and, like, the, like, white, like, kind of ceramic, plasticky type looking thing. I'm like, oh, God, that's the Titan arms that they all get.
So while that fight is happening, one of the other fights that Raiden books is Kano versus Sonya in a trailer park. Once again, of all of the settings and stages, we just saw the Pit and they didn't use it. You're telling me Kano gets killed with a garden gnome to the face, and you did not use the spikes at the Pit?
Yeah. It's just, that was bad booking. They could have, like I said, they could have moved that fight to the pit, or even if let's say they just kept Jax and Reiko at the pit, fine. Like, Sonya and Kano could have been booked to any MK location on Earth, so you could have put them. Even if you wanted to put in like the least amount of like effort, you could have put them on a rooftop, or you could have put them in the bank, or you could have put them in like any kind of setting from MK3 that's like on Earth. Just give us something, or like a cemetery or something, like where you would like in Trilogy or whatever, like.
Or the subway, and he gets hit by the train.
Yeah, exactly. At no point in Mortal Kombat history in any game do we see people in like a trailer park fighting. I don't think.
And the fucking Kano earlier in the movie hawked a loogie on a garden gnome, and he was like, "Fucking garden gnomes freak me out." And then later in the movie, Sonya, and this whole thing was dog shit, because like Sonya, Kano has her back, and he's like trying to choke her out, and Sonya grabs the garden gnome, the very same garden gnome, haha, and like it doesn't even look like she hits him hard, and it kills him. Like, of all the shit you could have chosen from, that is what. Oh my god! And
it's insulting to like. Sonya is like an established Mortal Kombat star, been around since the first game. She's got a number of like classic moves like that you could have used, and then just like, nah, give her a gnome.
Dude, Sonya's treated like shit in this movie.
Yeah, it's like second only to Goro.
Oh, dude, like. It's just I felt bad for the Sonya character, because she's kind of just a device to move things forward. She can explain like, oh, well, through my research, and like, well, I found Kano earlier off camera. Like, all this, I know Jax from before, so. And then in this movie, she's basically buried because she doesn't have the dragon symbol. Yep. She is apparently not all that great of a fighter. And she like none of her trademark shit is here. Where even in the '95 movie, we're going back, she does the handstand basically like into a Frankensteiner on Kano, breaks his neck, which we've seen her use the leg scissors a bunch of times across the games.
She even gets a revival in Annihilation.
Yeah,
she does the same thing to, was it Ermac, I think, at the end of the movie.
She does the head scissors neck break in there, and they found a way in Annihilation where she picks up the chemicals and blows them at Cyrax, who's in the fire, and that causes a chemical fire. So she did the Kiss of Death. Mm-hmm. So again, Annihilation booked better here. Annihilation booked it better than this movie did. And Annihilation sucks.
Oh God, it does. But yeah, Annihilation, I love it, but God, it's not good.
What else did we have here? We get Liu Kang versus Cabal here.
Yeah, Cabal, another like late arrival into this movie, and it basically convinces Kano, I think, to just like turn back to the side of evil.
Yeah.
And then he fights with Liu Kang. Now again, like Liu Kang should not be having a problem with Cabal at all, but that's what makes me think this is like a much less developed Liu Kang. He's like not as far along in his fighting ability, I guess. So. Yeah. All right, fine, good enough scene.
And I was fine with Cabal getting his shit in on Liu Kang, because like we know Liu Kang is dope, and like we assume he's going to become like a major deal. But I liked Cabal getting his shit in on Liu Kang here, because it made Cabal seem like he was a big deal. So I was fine with that, and I like his like speedster abilities, and like disappears into like that purple cloud, and then he's like, he even hits Liu Kang with a, "You want me to slow down for you?"
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I kind of do like this Cabal. So he dies shortly after, of course.
Yeah.
And Liu Kang kills him by raising like a fire dragon, which once again, high spot, super cool. When they did stuff right, they did it really well.
We did, I almost wish they didn't show that in the trailer, because it was really cool. Yeah, like seeing that on the screen for the first time, I would have been like, damn, that's awesome. But they let you know it was coming already, so I'm like, well, all right, it's still good, but just wish I didn't know it was happening.
We also got right here Melina. She jumps on, who is it, Jax, and then Kano, or hold on, I got a sneeze cooking and it's fucking me up. All right, I think it passed. So Melina gets like, she does this like weird twisting shooting star press onto Jax, and then Sonya basically just like blows a hole through her body, and Jax is like, "Well, you got your Arcana, huh?" She's like, "Parting gift from Kano," and they're still just all smiles.
Yeah. I mean, Kano dying is not the impactful death that Kung Lao would be for these people, so I get it. They're probably just happy to be rid of Kano, honestly. So, like, yeah, fuck, that stupid guy's dead. We hate him. And, like, yeah, so Sonya, she got, at least she got that, you know. But, like, her rivalry with Kano is, like, the one thing that people know about Sonya for, you know, since, like, 1992 or 3 or whatever. So, like, let her do awesome moves to him.
I agree.
Just not a lawn gnome.
I forgot to mention that when they were in the void and they were booking all these fights, there's a part where Jax is like, "What about Subzero? No one's taking him one-on-one." And it made me think of that line from Malcolm in the Middle where Dewey's like, "No one believes me that I beat Mortal Kombat." And Hal is like, "Well, no one beats Sub-Zero."
Yeah.
So that gave me a good chuckle. But we get these deaths. We get some really cool deaths. Great violence here. Cut back to the Cole Young family, and the mom tells the daughter, "Fuck another 4-armed monster showing up." And that's when we see Sub-Zero outside of her cabin door, looking like he's cold and he wants to come inside.
Yeah, he's like, they let the dog outside or something.
So from there...
Looking like Seven from fucking WCW.
Oh my god. Got me dressed up in this goofy shit.
Yeah, he's thinking, he's good. Oh, that's all this needed was that Russo promo. Like, Sub-Zero, like, yeah, I'm Sub-Zero, by the way. Like,
you know what? Before we get into Cole versus Sub-Zero and Scorpion shows up, I don't think we talked about it. How do you feel about Sub-Zero's design in the movie?
I'm good with it. I actually think it looks pretty cool.
I do too. I'm not mad at it. It's, if there's one thing that I question a little bit, it's that his costume to me, and maybe it's the lighting, but it looks like he's practically wearing all black. And we know that he dies at the end of this movie, and presumably he'll be back in the second one as Noob Saibot, where he's just going to wear all black again. He's just going to look like the same guy.
He'll look the same. Yeah, it would have been nice to have like a little bit more brighter, like blue to contrast that.
Yeah.
Like, I did like what they did with his eyes compared to, like, you know, with Raiden we were talking about. It's not well done, but Sub-Zero, I liked that they did that.
They look so much better.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're like that in the game. I don't think they are. I think that's like a Frost thing in the game. But like, he looked menacing. He looked like, you know, when he was on screen, he's the guy that you're like, oh shit, like we got to put distance between us and him because he's a killer. He's just a nasty, mean man.
I like to think that was in parentheses in the script.
Yeah.
Sub-Zero outside trailer door like nasty, mean man. So, I feel like we've beaten this to death, but they're still doing it. Cole Young versus Sub-Zero in a frozen MMA gym.
I'm almost okay with this, just because this is like an established location for Cole Young.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it doesn't mean shit to like Mortal Kombat diehard fans for years and years, but like at least in this movie, it kind of makes sense.
But all right, you're selling me a little bit.
Like, you didn't need that.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing. If this was a Ninja Turtles movie, this would be dope. Because, like, the Ninja Turtles, it's fucking New York. You know?
Yeah.
Where in Mortal Kombat, I keep just going back to, of all the places you could have chosen. You know? Like, and what if this took place in... You could still have the same, like, stylized, like, cage, because he's an MMA fighter. He's used to being in a cage. But what if it was a fucking cage in another realm? And it was, like, super tall, and it was, like... There was, like, barbed wire and fire, and, like, the mat was soaked with blood. This just looks like an LA boxing gym in Logan Square.
They could have just did, like, like the Black Dragon like cage fighting pit that you find Sonya in MK11 or something like that,
good.
where it's
there you go.
You could see something that's like, oh, all right, I know that from the game, but even if you don't, you're like, well, Cole would be here because he's an MMA guy and this is what he knows.
There's a little bit of a head scratching moment here where at the beginning of the movie, Sub-Zero killed Scorpion's family. And he fights because he's trying to wipe out the entire Hisashi bloodline. So he's like, okay, I have them here sitting ducks. Fuck them, they're dead. Now I'm gonna get Hanzo, and he does. With Cole Young, he shows him the bracelet that his daughter made, and then he smashes it in the ice. But he didn't kill them. He just like froze them in place. Why did he not just kill them?
It makes no sense for this Sub-Zero to leave them alive.
Yeah, he's an assassin. He's not an evil genius who was just like, I will taunt him with his family. No, he's gonna kill you.
As he's done previously, hundreds of years ago, with Scorpion's family, yeah. It doesn't make sense.
They're fighting in this MMA gym, and all of this death that has happened, once again, I wrote down, where are the fucking police? If we can see Goro on a farmhouse smashing a truck, we easily could have seen a bunch of cops open fire and Sub-Zero just throws up an ice wall and then just like uses it to crush the cops too. Yeah. And that would have added a little bit of logic to this real world setting, and
it would have like once again established that Sub-Zero is like the main threat of this movie and he's not going to like take prisoners, he's going to just kill everybody.
And I'm going to give this movie credit. This is probably the strongest Sub-Zero has ever been booked, ever.
Oh, certainly in a movie, at the very least. Like, yeah. I mean, I say that having just watched Annihilation, where he swings in and has that fight on the bridge with Scorpion, and then disappears. After he's telling Liu Kang, he's like, oh, you're not ready for this on your own. And then he just leaves Liu Kang on his own. So
that's like... we have to cover Annihilation at some point, but it's like Nightwolf. There are 3 tests you have to pass. And he puts him through the first test, and then we never see him again.
Yeah, like, knocks him out. He fights Jade. I'm like, I guess that's 2? Maybe? I don't know.
Tell me about Cole versus Sub-Zero here in the cage, and what leads to Scorpion's arrival.
At this point, I don't really remember. I think I checked out a little bit. It's like I remember like enjoying the fight itself, but like just being in for purely just the visuals at that point. Yeah. I'm like, I know Scorpion's coming, so when he does, I'm gonna be excited because that was gonna be the fight that they have showed us in the trailer the whole time that everybody wants to see. Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Is this like, yeah, this is the main event of this movie.
I love that that's where you checked out, too.
No, I mean, like I said, the fight itself, I was like, awesome, cool.
Yeah.
But a plot, I just totally lost the narrative here. I'm like, who cares? Just let them fight. Let them fight, like Godzilla.
Okay, I'll catch you up. So Cole and Sub-Zero are fighting, and Cole, at the same time, is kind of struggling with I have to get my family out of here. He's not really getting in any shit on Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero's kind of dominating him, which I love. Makes Sub-Zero look great.
Should.
And he pulls out the ancient like Hisashi spear, and they get into like a fight over it. He sticks Sub-Zero in the chest with it, but his armor's so thick, doesn't do shit. Slashes him twice. Armor's too thick, doesn't do shit. So then they're fighting over it, and Sub-Zero turns it on Cole. Cole grabs it to stop it, and it slices his hand. And I think a younger generation of Hisashi blood touching the blade is what allowed Scorpion to re-enter Earthrealm. That's what I took from it.
Yeah, Raiden made the point to say, like, oh, his blood is on this blade.
That's what I took from it. So Scorpion shows up, and then Scorpion and Sub-Zero have a face-off, and they start to fight while Cole can start tending more to his family. And I'll let you take it from there.
We just get the fight we wanted this whole time, like Scorpion and Sub-Zero, which is what every Mortal Kombat fan wants. I think this was done really well.
I agree. This fight is pretty dope.
It's definitely like, I mean, Sub-Zero has been put over this entire movie as like a boss, which already is like better establishment than he gets in like the MK Legends cartoon, because that fight Sub-Zero just like dies pretty much right away when the fight with Scorpion. So like I was happy to see them going back and forth. And again, this is all stuff in the trailer that we've seen where they're like Sub-Zero like slashes him, freezes his blood, and stabs him with the thing. Like, oh man, it's like straight out of the game with some of these moves they're doing.
And they did kind of like almost every high spot from this fight was in the initial trailer.
Yeah, like again, unfortunately, like they should have left a little of that out, I think.
Here's what kind of threw me for a loop a little bit, which is obviously not the first time that's happened in this movie, but we see Sub-Zero's chest armor saved him like 4 times in the fight with Cole. Cole and Scorpion team up on Sub-Zero, and Sub-Zero is still competitive against both of them. Like, he's getting shit in, but they knock Sub-Zero down, and for whatever reason, Sub-Zero takes his chest armor off and then immediately gets stabbed in the chest.
It's as if that was the one thing preventing him from getting stabbed in the chest.
Like, I did not get that, and I should add in that when they start to turn the tide, we see the wife and the daughter open their eyes, and I was like, fuck!
They're alive.
I was pissed that they were still alive. Oh, man. But, dude, Scorpion fucking, he throws the spear, which is now on the chain. He's got the full get over here action going on. Sticks him with it. He, like, whips him through the sky, like, smashes him down face first, and Sub-Zero is still getting up. Like, he's taking Scorpion's best shit. And he, like, he knows he's going down. But, like, he takes his mask off, and he even, like, smirks at them a little bit and throws out a, for the Lin Kuei. Like, yeah. I know I'm going down, but you're going to have to earn it, motherfucker.
Which I did like the callback for the Lin Kuei, because, like, the Lin Kuei has not been, like, mentioned since that early scene in the movie. And, like, as far as I know, they don't exist anymore, because that was 1700. So, like, and he's just been working for Shang Tsung for this whole time, from what I gather.
We also got another sweet callback where, in the beginning, Hanzo throws the spear, it sticks in the tree, and Bihan avoids it. And he gives Hanzo a look like, yeah, nice try, dickhead. But then Hanzo pulls it back, and it slices him on the return. Mm-hmm. Where when they meet up here, hundreds of years later, even on the pullback, Bihan avoids it. Like, nah, bitch, you're not getting me with that again.
Yeah, like, I remember that.
So that, I did, and you know what? They allowed that to happen, and for us to see it, and they did not draw extra attention to it. It just happened.
Yeah, some movies would smash you over the head with it, and they would have that flashback scene happen right away as this was going on.
How did you feel about Scorpion killing Sub-Zero with the Toasty fatality?
It's one of those things that, like, when you see it, like, in Mortal Kombat, mm-hmm. It's just, I don't know, it's like one of those classic things, like the dragon, the Liu Kang dragon, and, like, some of this, like, the pit, all these things that we saw, and we were like, oh, yeah, awesome, that's in there, I love it.
The only thing that I questioned a little bit was, I was, like, earlier, before we got there, when Scorpion first showed up, he takes his, like, face mask off, and he tells him, like, do you remember this face? Because he told him in the beginning, remember this face. Like, I'm going to be back, motherfucker.
It's like his dying, well, not his dying breath, but yeah, basically it's the last thing he says to Sub-Zero.
In that moment where, at the end, he, like, takes the face mask off, I kind of thought he was going to, like, pull his whole head skin off, and we were going to see the skull. But they don't go that route. Instead, when he breathes the fire, we kind of see the skin burns away, and we see the bottom of the skull, but then the skin reforms. I guess that's just a little easier to get away with than watching him put his head skin back on, like Spider-Man's mask or something. I don't know.
I guess, yeah. Like, I mean, that's...
They pulled it off, though. It looks really cool, so I'm not complaining. I was just like, oh, they didn't do the classic way.
Yeah. I mean, they probably were just like, that doesn't make any sense in this movie. But they're like... At the same time, this is a demon man who's just been resurrected again through, like, a blood ritual. Yeah. So, like, how much sense does it really have to make? But that said, the way they did it, like, it looked cool, and that's all you can really ask for, I guess.
I agree. And he burns him, he kills him, and I kind of thought they would go, like, the super extra mile, and Sub-Zero would either just be, like, an ashy skeleton or like completely turned to dust, but he doesn't. He's just kind of crispy and dead. But you never know if that was a ratings board thing and they were just like, that's a little too much. So I'm not gonna hold that against him. I kind of like seeing like the black burnt flesh. I think it's really cool. And with all of the horrific violence we saw, a little bit of restraint at the end, I think actually went a long way. It's like, oh,
I guess that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I totally bought into that. Like I've been saying this whole time, when they gave us the violence, I loved all of it. Even if the shit surrounding it I did not like. I wanted the violence. I cannot say they didn't give me that.
They delivered there. I mean, they definitely, like, seeing the classic, like you said, this one, you see the Shang Tsung stealing the soul looked really cool when he did it. Like, all the stuff that we wanted to see from Mortal Kombat, like, they did it well. It was just all the stuff that we didn't ask for that they threw in that kind of, like, bogged everything down a little bit.
That's a great way to put it, and I didn't even think about that. Like, the stuff I did not like about this movie is just the stuff that I didn't want anyway.
Like, nobody asked for that, yeah.
So, after Scorpion kills Subzero, he basically tells Cole Young, like, take care of my bloodline. He disappears, presumably back to the Netherrealm, because he, like, burns up in ashes and shit. You know what? I do want to draw attention to a great line that Scorpion said to Sub-Zero, where he was like, you thought I was going to burn in the fires of hell, but, like, I mastered them, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, that's dope. I like that a lot. So, this is where Shang Tsung shows up, and Raiden shows up, and they have this conversation about... I wrote down a couple of Shang Tsung's lines that were like, there will always be another to take their place, even if you've killed my fighters. Death is only another portal. So it seems like he's setting the tone where, like, we can kind of expect to see these people again, because no one ever really dies in Mortal Kombat.
Right.
And he says, next time I see you, I will not bring fighters, I will bring armies. And I was like, I kind of want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see it, and I want to see where they come from. No more trailer parks, no more farmhouses, no more hot dog stands.
I do have in my notes here, and I may have missed plot points at this point, but obviously we didn't actually get around to the tournament. Like, no. It just didn't happen. So technically, Outworld has broken 0 rules. Because, like, they're bound by the tournament, like, guidelines and everything when Mortal Kombat is actually, like, going on. But now they're just doing whatever they want because there is no tournament at the moment. They're trying to avoid the tournament.
You're right, because they did establish several of these things where Shang Tsung said there's not going to be a tournament there's not going to be competition because we're going to kill their best guys outside the tournament. Raiden said that the Elder Gods don't care about what's going on right now for whatever reason, but he's like, They don't care about what's happening right now. What was a little confusing was at Raiden's temple, like halfway through the movie, Liu Kang tells Cole Young and Sonya and everybody, like, we have to prepare for the tournament. And Cole goes, this doesn't feel like a tournament, it feels more like an ambush. And Liu Kang goes, we have less than a full moon before the next tournament. It's like, oh, which is it? Like, is there going to be a tournament in, like, 3 weeks? Or what? Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? Which, I don't know. But you're right. I guess.
They just, because without the tournament happening, they're like, we can just do whatever we want as long as the tournament's not going on.
And it just makes Shang Tsung look like a fucking idiot then. Because they were
he's looked like an idiot this whole movie. Like,
yeah, they were up 9. All they need to do was win 1 more. And he's like, let's try some new shit. And he lost, like, his all-stars.
It's like, let's kill them all, like, one by one before the tournament even starts. And make sure that we don't have any opposition, and we'll guarantee our 10th victory. I'm like, all right, good plan. But you've lost everybody that could have won your tournament, including the guy Goro, who has presumably still in this canon won every tournament since the Great Kung Lao.
And at no point is Shang Tsung like, I cannot fucking believe this isn't working. Where, even in Annihilation, Shao Kahn has, like, the takeover plan, and when stuff is not going well, we see them around the war table. Shao Kahn, Rain, Motaro, Shiva, Sindel, all these people. And Shao Kahn kind of has a little bit of a Kylo Ren to him, even though he predates him, where fuck, my plans aren't working. Give me a second to figure this out. And he's so frustrated, he even kills some of his own guys. And then he's like, all right, here's the plan. Where Shang Tsung is just basically getting owned this entire time, makes zero adjustments, doesn't question the strategy.
He's like, we're just going to ride this out.
He just looks like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, well, I mean, looks and acts like a fucking idiot in this movie. Shang Tsung is like the most underwhelming character for me in this movie, which really sucks because I like him so much in basically everything else. So, like, to see him done like that was like one of the low points of the movie, I think, for me. And Goro, like we talked about.
You know what? Go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done.
Oh, I was actually going to go back on something that I know you said, like in your like kind of retrospectives and stuff. But like Goro, he should be treated like really well, like a threat. Yeah. And like that's been an issue with you with like some of the game story modes, because like Goro shows up and you just beat him right away. Mm-hmm. And like that's kind of a running thing with Goro, is every time he shows up on screen, you're beating him pretty much. And that's not what he should be. Like, and that's what it's exactly what he is in this movie. We've seen nothing to pose him as a threat. And same goes for Shang Tsung. He just sits in a chair and eventually steals a soul, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. And his plan doesn't fucking work because it's stupid.
We've brought up Motaro a couple times because we've brought up Annihilation and like comparing how Motaro looked to Goro, yada yada. I don't feel like if they do Motaro in the sequel, I feel like he's probably gonna look like shit. Where even in Annihilation, which was 1987, he looks pretty fucking cool in that movie. Because
I mean, yeah, he's just obviously some guy with like horse legs on, but like Motaro, like they should have used him in place of Goro in this. At least it would have made sense. He was in a fucking barn, big horse. Agree. Like, I don't know.
Imagine if, and again, this is us rebooking this, like trying to fix it in the same way that they could have used like different settings and stuff like that. Imagine if the Shang Tsung that we had here was the old man Shang Tsung who looked practically decrepit and did not look like a threat. That could have been this Shang Tsung who was maybe overconfident, too full of his own shit, like obviously my fighters won't lose. And maybe at the end of this movie, he kind of takes his younger form or something. Or at the end of this movie, he takes his younger form, and when he says, I will bring armies, like, instead of Raiden, like, zapping him away like he's a jobber, what if he opens his own portal, and as he's walking into his own exit portal, we see Goro behind him. That's the first time we see Goro. We see, like, Ermac in there. We see Baraka with a bunch of Tarkatan soldiers. Shang Tsung saying, like, I've got some shit for that ass. And that's when we see all these guys. You know, like...
That would have worked for me.
You and I could have made a better movie than this.
Oh, I think so, yeah, definitely. Like, I like the idea that it's almost like... I thought they were maybe going to go with something like this, like, early on before I ever saw anything about this movie. But it would have been cool to have Shang Tsung be, like, the old man, like, MK1 Shang Tsung. But as he gets stronger and sucks the souls of, like, the various fighters, he, like, restores himself little by little.
I love it.
Kind of like the idea of Dracula, like, in the book and in certain versions of the movie. Like, he starts off really old and basically falling apart. But as he drinks more blood, he becomes more and more, like, just rejuvenated, pretty much. Like, that's basically the same thing you got. You could set that up like that. By the end of the movie, Shang Tsung basically is like, all right, I'll do it myself next time. You're not going to get off so lucky, Raiden. And then, you know, we could just do that exact scene over again.
I'm with you. I like that better. And as, like, Shang Tsung says, I won't bring fighters, I'll bring armies. And then Raiden just zaps him away. Like, he's just some nuisance instead of, like, the big bad, which... I guess is kind of fitting here because he never felt like the big bad at all. He seems like a fucking idiot. But then Raiden tells the good guys, like, I'll assemble a new race of champions. You must find them. And Cole's like, again with a big stupid smile on his face because no one ever took any of this seriously. Cole's like, who's first? And then we're in the MMA gym and he tells the promoter, I'm not taking the fight. I'm going to Hollywood. And the guy goes, what's in Hollywood? He goes, not what, who? And then we zoom in on that Johnny Cage poster.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that ending?
I mean, sequel bait. Obviously, they wanted to set up for some sequel that, depending on how this goes, we might not even get. But, I do think that some of the actors are signed on for, future movies. So they're probably going to go ahead with some of them. I hope they're handled better. But, the Johnny Cage little Easter egg cliffhanger at the end, I'm cool with that. People I know were kind of upset that he wasn't in this movie. I know leading into it there was a big thing why isn't Johnny Cage in this movie?
Yeah.
But now seeing what they did, where would he have fit and how would he have gotten out without being buried some point during this movie? I'm almost glad he wasn't, because that's just another one of my favorite characters that would have just ended up looking dumb.
I agree with that, and him being the main guy that they need to go get makes him feel main event,
Yeah, that's true.
I like that, and I don't know if I was talking to you about it or if I said it on another podcast, but with the whole, where is Johnny Cage? How do you do Mortal Kombat without Johnny Cage? I remember saying, okay, it's kind of what you just said. Let's say they do have Johnny Cage here. He's going to get 90 seconds of screen time. You can't have everyone in the first movie.
Yeah.
Let him be in the sequel, and he can be a bigger deal there. But I don't know how much faith I have in that. But...
I know, in the sequel, from what we've seen, we can expect Shang Tsung to come back. We've seen statues and things of Outworld of, Shao Kahn, and, we know he's around. There was never any, mention of him in this movie, I don't think. They never talked about Shao Kahn at all, or the Emperor. In the 95 movie, they were, he wasn't central to the plot, but they talked about him.
Yeah, he's the stinger at the end. He,
yeah.
They're celebrating their victory, and then, this apparition of him breaks out of the top of a mountain, and he's I will come and you will all bow to me, and Raiden's I don't think so. So we know there's a new big bad who's not taking this lightly.
Yeah, plus they've, mentioned the Emperor several times through that movie, so, he's out there, you know he's around, which, pretty cool. They did none of that in this movie, I don't think.
We got that piece of MK11 concept art on the cave wall.
Yeah, I do like that. That's pretty cool. It's something they found it in the crypt, just pasted it on the wall.
You said that depending on how this does, there could be sequels, and you said that you heard people signed on for multiple movies. I saw on Wikipedia, which is the most trusted source.
Oh, yeah.
The guy that played Subzero has apparently signed on for 4 movies.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first one, obviously. But other things I wrote down were the producer, Todd Garner, said that the next movie, if they do one, could be a standalone Johnny Cage movie, which I don't know why you would do a standalone movie for any character when you're trying to establish all of these other characters. That's a little strange.
If you're gonna they should have done that first.
It's
the Marvel ones. By the time you got to the Avengers, each of them had a movie or two, and you knew who they were, and you didn't have to bring everybody together.
It's almost like another Warner Brothers property made that same mistake.
Yeah, I've heard legends of one. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but yeah. I'm almost thinking, if they go ahead with that, why not just make an in-universe Johnny Cage movie, fucking Ninja Mime or something? Have that, have that be the movie that you watch, and then, intercut with that is, Johnny behind the scenes, as a struggling to be taken seriously actor, and people, questioning if he's really that good, and, all this other stuff. I don't know. Again, that was done better in the, was it the Legacy series, where he's, not being taken seriously anymore, and he keeps pitching things, and it turns out the agent is, giving his pitches to younger, more relevant actors. And, I don't know, I liked how they did that there. It seemed like it worked.
Still on the topic of Johnny Cage, did you see that The Miz is campaigning on Twitter that he plays Johnny Cage?
I did see something about that. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the only reason that I would not be for it is that I don't like The Miz. But I mean, like, he does. And you know what? I'm gonna go back on that because I feel like the only thing that makes him even remotely up to the casting is that Johnny Cage and the character of The Miz have similarities. But The Miz is not a martial artist, and I don't know. I don't want it. Don't do it. I don't want to. The whole time I'm watching the movie, I'm gonna be thinking that's The Miz.
Yeah. I mean, that is what was working for me about this movie is, like, I didn't really know too many of the actors or anything, so, like, it never took me, like, out of the movie. Apart from that guy from The Dark Knight, I just thought about Batman stealing him from Hong Kong and all that, but, like, like, The Miz, like, I didn't like him a ton when I was, like, watching wrestling at any point.
Yeah.
I grew to like him, actually, quite a bit. Because of his, like, asshole heel persona. I was like, all right, this guy's so good at being a dickhead and doing, like, the bare minimum of, like, just not showing off and not giving fans what they want to see. Like, I like that. But, like you said, like, I don't know if this guy's known for martial arts. I don't think he's, like, physically able to, like, do the role. I mean, he looks the part, but that's it. You need more than that.
I'm with you. I don't, like, if it's up to me, I'm not casting The Miz. I would,
no, yeah,
like you said, I would prefer somebody I have no attachment to, so I can just buy them as Johnny Cage. Where the only person, like you had the Dark Knight connection, in my head, the only person I had any previous history with was Mehcad Brooks from Supergirl, but even then, I wasn't seeing James Olsen. Like it was a departure from who James Olsen was to see him as Jax. Mm-hmm. But having talked about it now and having seen it twice, I still think where I sit with this is I didn't really like it because this overall is not what I wanted. Mm-hmm. All they gave me that I wanted was, like, the violence. I think the story sucked. I think the characters largely sucked. So, no, I didn't really like it, but I do want more. If they do sequels, I'm down.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, this, I wasn't blown away by it. I wasn't floored by, like, how authentic it felt, like Mortal Kombat or anything like that. But while I was watching it, I was having a good time. I was enjoying the fight scenes, like, for what they were, just purely from a aesthetic, like, awesome level that these guys are doing the video game moves and, like, they're, you know, basically hitting all the beats that I want them to hit in those scenes. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, this is going to be one of those movies where, like, it gets forgotten about if there's no sequels.
Yeah.
It's going to be that weird kind of throwaway Mortal Kombat movie. Like, everybody knows the 95 one. Most fans will tell you that they still enjoy it. Annihilation, people remember for other reasons, whether they, you know, just hate it or whether they watch it like I do every once in a while just because it's a good laugh and it's good fun. Like, this one, I don't know. Like, if there's no sequels, this one almost seems like it comes and goes with very little fanfare, and that's it.
I'm with you. And I think the difference between something like this and something like Batman v Superman, which are all, like, properties I love, after Batman v Superman, I was like, this was such a mistake. This is so fucked up. The characters are handled so poorly. Please kill this. I don't want any more. Where with Mortal Kombat, I just think it could have done better, and I would like to see them improve in the sequels, which I want to see. So it's not like I hate this and I want it to go away. I want more because I hope the next two show me more of what I want to see. Show me Outworld. Show me the Deadpool and, like, the Nethership interior and, like, all these levels that I love. I have faith that they can take some constructive criticism and build on it, where, like, the Snyderverse, I was like, he knows what he wants to do and he's not going to listen to anybody. So just shut it down.
They could still course correct from this movie. Like, they're going to see now, like, here's what people liked, here's what people are saying they didn't like. We can either learn from this feedback, or we can just, just keep doing this, and, like, whether people like it or not, we're going to keep doing the thing that we started out doing, and, like, just take it the whole way. I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm curious to see what the next movie looks like. Curious to see what they learn from this movie. But, if this is the beginning and end of it, I had a good time watching it. And yeah, I can pick it apart as we've done.
Yeah.
But overall, I still am glad it exists. I'm happy that I got a Mortal Kombat movie in 2021, but like 30 years after, or 20 years after the last one, or whatever it was. Like, yeah, it's fine. It's good, decent.
And the fixes that they would need to make they're not even that big. Like, the stuff that I didn't like, that I hope that they would course correct, like you said, they could do so easily. It's not like they totally buried this license and why did you even bother? They nailed certain things about this, and in certain, like, tiny parts even exceeded expectations. So just a couple corrections and then you got me. If they fucking introduce Johnny Cage and halfway through the second movie Cole Young and his whole family dies, we got a whole new deal going here.
I don't know if this is true, but I heard that this whole Cole Young character and plot and everything was like a studio decision and not like from the creators of this movie and the people who wrote it or anything. Which, I mean, again, I don't know if this is true, but if it is, it makes total sense, because I've never heard of a movie that benefited from studio interference, and this is just another example of that.
And I obviously have no idea whether that's true or not, but I believe that 110%. Mm-hmm. That sounds like something that you would get in some notes, like after the script was greenlit, but someone was just like, I think the audience needs someone fresh they can connect with. And you got to imagine that, like, the writers and the director were like, all right.
Well, fuck. What do we do? How do we make this?
But yeah, there's definitely fun to be had with this movie. I did not hate it. It's not really what I wanted, but I don't want anybody to think that my opinion of this is, fuck it, why did they bother, burn it? Because that's not what it is. I will watch this again. I'll throw this on in the background. I will recommend this movie to people. I just wish it was handled a little differently. We definitely, like you said, picked it apart because I took notes scene by scene. So it was probably a little more negative than I wanted it to come off, but I had a bunch of issues. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, some of the things I did bring up as issues for me, like on my part, they were very minor too.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like it's a totally kills the momentum of the movie for like a lot of this stuff. Like I said, the most egregious thing was probably just Goro's treatment. But apart from that, like, any other complaints I had were pretty minor. So yeah, I would recommend it too. I mean, especially to a Mortal Kombat fan that's like a little open-minded. I know there are within every fandom, and Mortal Kombat's no different, but there's pockets of people who only want exact translations of the source material, and this is not that. So if you're one of those fans, stay away, far away.
Yeah. Now I want to know what the Dan's opinions of the... Oh, fuck. All right, god damn it. Right before we wrap up, I did post on patreon.com/616entertainment. I almost forgot again. I asked some of our patrons over there to give us some topics and some questions, so we'll run through some of their opinions real quick, and then we'll wrap up. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
All right, we got our mutual boy, Burnout Inc. here.
Oh, what a great man.
He hits us with a couple, and he says, I gotta ask the obvious. How did you guys feel about Cole Young? I actually thought he was okay. I liked the story of the markings, and the birthmark line played out way better here than in the trailer. I think it came down to he was just given screen time over Liu Kang and Johnny Cage, excited to see him if there's a sequel. Which I get that complaint, but it didn't recycle the plot of the MK games or the original movie. I think if he had a better name than Cole Young, the most NXT mid-carder name of all time, would have helped. He needed a more badass name like Kano or Jax, which I agree with Burnout Inc. Cole Young is a dog shit name. It's very generic.
It was it one of the last podcasts that me and you did where we talked about this movie briefly and neither of us could remember his name?
Yeah,
so, like,
I thought he was Cole Turner, and then at first I thought he was Connor Povey.
Yes.
But to answer Burnout Inc.'s question, how did I feel about Cole Young? I don't like him, and I wish he was not in this movie. So...
Yeah, I mean, I think his screen time could have very easily and should have, for all intents and purposes, been given to someone else that Mortal Kombat fans would prefer and like a little better to watch. And you could have filled that kind of mouthpiece for the audience role with anybody.
I agree. We have Burnout Inc. here again. And how did you feel about Rico and Natara? I was happy for their inclusion, especially Natara, because she's in my MK boy stable of obvious jobbers, but both of their characters and designs were lame. But they got glorious fatalities.
Rico, unless there's some game that I'm not remembering, I don't remember him ever looking like this. Wasn't he just some guy with like black eye makeup? Wasn't that him?
Yeah, in Mortal Kombat 4, which is where he debuted, he's kind of just like a normal dude who's kind of wearing like the palette swap ninja outfit, except he has like Legion of Doomish face paint. And then I think he doesn't show up again until Mortal Kombat Armageddon, which was an everybody's here game, so he had to be there. And he kind of looks the same. So no, a big 6'10" hulking brute. He's never looked like that ever. So they took major liberties with him here.
I guess they had to make him like a little more imposing, probably.
Nathan Jones could have made a good Shao Kahn.
I thought I read somewhere that either he was pushing for that or people wanted him to go that route.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he would have looked the part at least.
And that's all he would have had. Like, so maybe it's not a good idea because no offense to Nathan Jones, but he obviously doesn't have the acting chops to be a lead heel, in my opinion. But
yeah, he was good for like a fill-in bad guy.
Yeah.
Like this, yeah.
A grunt, a bruiser.
Yep.
A heater, as they would say in wrestling.
Yeah.
On his question about Natara, wasn't super thrilled with her design, but let's be honest, she was only here to take that Kung Lao fatality.
That's it. Yeah, that seems to me like, all right, who can we put in that we'll just kill right away, that fans won't cry about when they die right away? And you can't do that with anybody from like the first 3 games because they're like grandfathered in classic characters that like if they die too quickly, it's just gonna be like, oh, what the fuck? Like, why'd you piss us off? So yeah, you can't do that with anybody like that. But Natara, yeah, that's fine. Throw her in, and it's like fine with people like me because, like I said before, I just have no attachment to that Natara character. Yeah. So, she served her purpose. She got paid her $30 and looked up at the lights.
Hot dog and a handshake.
Yeah.
From the Subzero hot dog stand.
Yeah.
To your point about how she does not have like the built-in like grandfathered legacy, I think she was literally in Deadly Alliance, Deception, and then had to come back for Armageddon, and that was it. Like, she wasn't in MKDC, she wasn't in 9, she wasn't in X, she wasn't in 11, so...
Yeah, she gets, like, mentions when you're selecting your little, like, buffs for the MK11 towers. Mm-hmm. Like, if you have, like, a Nitara thing, it, like, sends a thing across the board or whatever. I don't remember. Just those little things that you pick to, like, go into your fights with. Because they got names for, like, all those characters in there.
Yeah. We got Garrett Hernandez, a.k.a. Lonely, here. He says, what do you think, and we kind of answered this too, but I want everybody to be able to get their shit in. What do you think of The Miz's campaign for the role of Johnny Cage? Do you see him as a good fit for the role? And I think we both kind of said, no, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it based on what I know about The Miz right now.
Yeah.
Like, unless he has, I don't know, some awesome martial arts background or, like, awesome acting ability that I'm not aware of. I haven't seen it in Marine, 6, so... I'm not about that, really.
And I don't even need nor do I want anybody, like we said earlier, that I recognize. And I don't give a fuck what they do with him as long as it's good. Like, sometimes people will... Like, when Raiden was cast for the first movie, and it was Christopher Lambert. And there are people to this day who are kind of just like, why'd they get a white guy to play Raiden? I don't care who they get to play Johnny Cage, just make him dope.
Yeah.
So, just not The Miz, please. That's all I really care about. We got our boy G to the next level here, who also has a great YouTube channel I recommend. He says, he asks, I should say, what are your thoughts on Jax not pushing Rico into the pit? That drove me nuts because it was right there.
Yeah, definite missed opportunity. If you were going to do Jax's like hand clap fatality, then don't put that fight at the pit. Have them fight somewhere else and put, like we said before, Sonya and Kano, put them at the pit. Like, get rid of the lawn gnome. Just have the pit be used. If it's going to be in the movie, just do something with it.
Who do you want to cast as the lawn gnome in Mortal Kombat 2?
Oh, I want him to be a DLC in MK11 first, like the next combat pack.
God damn it.
Lawn gnome, yeah.
Flavor Dave is here. And for whatever reason, he has asked a question that has nothing to do with the topic. I ask this to every guest. You ever shit yourself as an adult?
I'm sure I've come dangerously close, I'm sure. Like, you think you got everything under control, and you're like, oh my god, no. I gotta get straight to the bathroom.
He says, and I think this is for you, NECA Toonie Terrors. You fuck with them? My bad if I got you confused with someone else. Ian has a lot of guests. You collect toys, right?
I like them from what I've seen. They're cool. They're basically like, if you don't know what they are, they're like small, like 3 or 4 inch tall, like animated style, like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees or like, movie classic like villains, basically. I don't have any. I don't collect them. It's just not my thing personally, but they do look cool. And yeah, they would look awesome, like on a shelf or on your desk or whatever the case. They're fun little pieces.
We got Mikey D here. When Subzero was getting burnt to a crisp, do you see this as foreshadowing his transformation into Noob Saibot?
I'm sure that'll happen because, I think that actor is signed on for like 2 or 3 more movies, you were saying. So we know he's not playing Sub-Zero.
Well, here's my question. Is he going to play Kuai Liang?
Oh, wait, yeah.
Because he could play both. If Noob Saibot, if they go the classic route with him, he's wearing all black and his skin is like all blacked out because like there's nothing to him. He's just the void at this point. He's
like a shadow, yeah.
He could play both, and if it's 2 of the same guy, they would obviously look like brothers.
I guess that could be. Yeah, I didn't think about Kuai Liang. For some reason, I just thought immediately my brain went to Noob Saibot for him. But yeah, that could be interesting.
And he's so awesome. Just please keep him around. He was the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I almost don't know if I would be able to go from this Sub-Zero to a version of Sub-Zero played by him that's not a complete asshole killer. Like,
yeah, right?
I don't want to see this guy be like a merciful, nice guy.
One thing that's funny, we had Flavor Dave who said, got anything you want to say or talk about that you were never able to find a way to bring up? Do it now if you'd like. I initially skipped that because I was like, no, we went scene by scene. We covered everything. But I thought of something. On the subject of Sub-Zero and Noob Saibot, who's their buddy? Smoke. Every fucking time an Outworld baddie showed up through those portals, I was like, Smoke? I was so hyped because I love Smoke so much.
I thought that he was like in one of these trailers, and I must have been totally mistaken. But like, I could have sworn that he would pop up in this movie somewhere.
I wish. But then again, maybe next time.
There's your tie-in with Kuai Liang. You get him and Smoke, and they're like boys, and maybe they do the whole Cyber Initiative thing at some point. Depends on how ridiculous they want to get with these movies, but they're not shying away from kind of some of the more mystical elements of Mortal Kombat, so they can do it.
Mikey D's here again. How did you feel about all the fatalities and death scenes? I'm personally a fan of practical effects, so some of these, mainly Natara and Goro's deaths, although badass, this is what I mentioned earlier, kind of look like PlayStation effects. I know it's something silly to kind of nag about, but I feel with a bigger budget, those deaths could have been tightened up. I'll go first. I loved all of the violence, and even the stuff that I thought looked a little silly or iffy. That's not something I'm going to complain about because it's all I wanted. And I don't care if it looks a little cartoony because that's what Mortal Kombat is for me. So I can't say I have any complaints about the violence really in any way.
Yeah, I mean, I can co-sign on what he's saying for, like, some of it maybe looked a little bit like if they had a little bit more money to, like, polish it up a little bit more, I would have probably liked it better. But that's very nitpicky for me. Like, I did like everything they did, especially, like, the Scorpion one I thought was well done. Like, the Kung Lao one I thought was awesome. And, yeah, like, I mean, I think just some of the effects in this could have done with a little bit more TLC. Like I said before, Goro just looked very out of place. Mm-hmm. And that might have been down to, like, the scenery and the setting and all that kind of stuff, too. But I think no matter where you put that character in a real-world setting, he's going to look very jarring.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I see the point that he's making, and I do kind of agree with it. But, yeah, I think overall this movie, not just even with effects, but just, like, overall the whole thing could have probably done with a little bit more fine-tuning and maybe a bigger budget.
Mikey D's here again. What characters would you like to see in the sequel to keep with this storyline? I'm not even going to think about how they fit into the storyline, just dream roster that we could see. Please go the Noob Saibot route. I want that. I would love Kuai Liang just to give us more of that actor because I think he was great. I obviously want Smoke. You name a couple, and then I'll come back with a couple more because I'm sure there's more people I want.
I want, first and foremost, I want Katana because
great choice. That's
like a major, plot point. You could have her start off with the heels and then kind of like slowly learn that, wait a minute, we're actually wrong about a lot of our stuff, and maybe that leads to bad blood between her and Shao Kahn or Shang Tsung or whoever. You could, in theory, like, depending on how close to the canon you're staying, you could bring Melina back and just have Shang Tsung, like, make her again.
Oh, flesh pits.
That's her whole thing, yeah. He just keeps making her.
I can think of one you mentioned earlier who is a must for the sequel. We need our boy Baraka.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he could be, like, a big time enforcer. Like he should have been, like, in this movie.
I want Baraka to... Dude, let him kill 2 heroes. And obviously he'll get his comeuppance and they'll take him down. But let him get at least one big one. Like, let us feel like he's a bad motherfucker. Because he got jobbed in Annihilation.
Yeah, swinging around on a chain.
And we just see rain fall in the fire.
Yeah, he doesn't even get the proper decency of a good death send-off. He just gets recycled footage. Even frickin' Shiva, like, we see her get crushed, and we know it's her. Yeah, I don't know. Like, besides Katana, like, we've gotten... Like, I mean, Johnny Cage is pretty much, like, a given at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it might be a little too early for Kintaro, and I don't trust them to handle Kintaro well.
Yeah, so, you know what? Just leave him alone.
Leave him out.
And the casual audience is going to be like, didn't they kill him last time?
Yeah, basically.
There's a lot of routes they can go, but I like all of those. And, of course, there's a million others that we would like to see, but we don't want to overflow it,
Yeah, I'm with you on Smoke, though, too, definitely.
Couple more. We got Gnoots or G-Nuts. He says, do you feel like it was a bait and switch to not have an actual tournament in the movie? And I've seen this is like some people's main complaint where they're like, how the fuck are you going to have a Mortal Kombat movie with no tournament? But I don't think I give that much of a shit about that. Do you?
Not especially, because, I mean, Mortal Kombat, like, they still mentioned the tournament a lot. They still mentioned, like, the name of the tournament and all that. So, like, the fact that we didn't get a tournament, I mean, I could see it being frustrating if you're going in thinking it's going to be a retelling of, like, the original game or the 95 movie or something. But, like, it didn't bother me, honestly.
Well, and even then, like, in the 95 movie, there is the tournament structure because obviously, like, Johnny Cage goes into the forest and Scorpion's there. So that fight was booked. Like, Liu Kang fights the monk guy on the beach with an audience. So that was booked. You knew where to be because those were your tournament fights. But it's not like we saw the monk beat somebody to then move on to face Liu Kang. It's we just got bits and pieces anyway. So it's not like we saw a bracket. It's just you either have fights that are, you know where they're going, or you have fights where none of the movies really have a tournament.
Yeah, well, I mean, Annihilation has none.
Yeah,
because it's just a world invasion story.
Agreed.
Like the animated Scorpion movie, like there's elements of a tournament in there, but apparently none of the rules matter because Scorpion can just interfere in every fight. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not bothered by it, nah.
We got William Thompson. I was so excited to watch this film, had waited all day since I had to work. It started off really well, the inclusion of an actual date threw me off, but the opening was perfect. Then the rest of the film just got worse. I felt like I was forcing myself to finish the movie. Very disappointed with this movie. And that's not even really a question, he's just letting us know how he felt. And in the beginning, I kind of mirrored this, where I was like, it opened so cool, and as soon as we met Cole and his family, I was like, fuck. And it started to go down for me. So I hear what William Thompson's saying.
Yeah, I mean, even I've, only watched it once still, but like my initial kind of feedback to the movie, like I agree to an extent. Like I could see that they should have done certain things differently. Like I know we've just talked about, but like for me, about the time they all started getting their like arcana, that's when it kind of just fell straight off a cliff for me. Like the movie, whatever fucks it had given up till that point, it just stopped.
Yeah, I'm with you. Last one, we got Turd Collins 69, which is a great name, and he just recently signed up for the Patreon, and I actually have a backstory for it. He signed up, and I sent him a message that was just like, hey, thanks for signing up, I really appreciate it. And he messaged me back and was like, I talked your ear off when I was drunk as shit one night outside of a freelance wrestling show. He said that he was showing his girlfriend, like, the History of Mortal Kombat videos, and he didn't even remember, but apparently his girlfriend saw me on the TV and goes, you know that guy. And she's the one who, like, reminded him of that night. So, small world.
That's incredible.
His questions are, what are your thoughts on the Goro fight? 9-time champ taken out by a jobber? And I think we both just have a blank face and we nod.
Yeah, I'm convinced that that's not Goro. Like, that's some abomination. It's not the real Goro, or Goro was never the threat. He was in there changing the history books to get himself over, but he was just like the worst fighter in his whole like family or something.
Dude, he had to be, because like he didn't even like get in any shit on Cole. Like he bashed him a couple times, he grabbed him, but like the first thing Cole does is he breaks Goro's arm, and then Goro like sets it, which was awesome. We forgot to mention that. That was awesome, but like where was anything cool that Goro did? I mean, Goro versus a truck is a Fight of the Year candidate, but
yeah. The mishandling of Goro for me is like the absolute low point of this movie.
He hits us with his last question, then we'll wrap up. Also, thoughts on Cabal and Kano. Personally thought they were both an amazing representation of the Black Dragon, and I was a fan personally of both of them. I liked Cabal's look. I liked Kano in general. I think they were two of this. For as short as Cabal was here, I thought he was a really strong part of the movie.
Yeah, I liked Cabal. Like, I mean, Kano, I think, is kind of like the runaway success of this movie. Like, just everyone's favorite character out of this movie is going to be Kano, probably. That's totally, like, deserved. He did a great job, the actor, and even the story made sure that Kano got his shit in. And Cabal, like, as kind of weird as some of the, like, aesthetic choices were for some of the characters, Cabal is just Cabal. Like, they just took him straight out of the game and put him in the movie, and it works. And it's, I think it was really well done. I like how they established the history with Kano and Cabal. Like, they don't try and, like, retcon too much of that. So, I genuinely did enjoy them.
I agree. Dandans, this was the review, discussion, podcast, call it what you will, of the Mortal Kombat 2021 film. We are at about 2 hours and 34 minutes, which is about 40 minutes longer than the movie itself. Which Captain McKay and I...
again.
Dude, we have a habit of doing that. But being that this will go out to a much larger audience than the last two did, because they were Patreon exclusive, reminder, you can sign up to Patreon and listen to the Snyder Cut and Godzilla vs. Kong podcast. But I'm excited to see what the bigger lot of the Dandans think of this format we have here.
I'm excited to talk about Annihilation now. When we book that, that'll be good.
Dude, sooner rather than later. Dandans, you tell us what you want. Should we cover Mortal Kombat 95? Should we do Annihilation? You can give us a different movie, and maybe we'll take one of those suggestions. But to make any of that happen, you have to go to youtube.com/Captain McKay Random. You got to click subscribe, and if you don't, I will know, and I will block you and have you arrested.
I won't do any of that stuff, but if you do want us to cover the 95 movie, you got to mail me your Blu-ray or DVD or something, because I don't have it.
Is it not even on HBO Max?
No, we tried to find it.
What the fuck?
I would think that that'd be like one of the things it recommends, because it's like, oh, you just watch the new one, watch this one now. But they're like, nah, we want all the attention on the new one.
Oh boy. Well, this was fun. Dandans, we love ya. And we're going to see you next week.